God tier genius, building mechas starting from a repair shop. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction. So don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 176. Two big shots appear at the same time? What? Why is the commander so serious? Many people are wondering about this too. He used to be quite serious in public, but gentle with us. Why is he suddenly like this? Stop talking, stop talking. Listen carefully, because what the commander is about to say is extremely important and urgent. If you keep talking like this, the chairman might come and greet you personally later. Hiss. The instructors below initially dared to whisper amongst themselves, but after hearing someone's reminder, they all immediately shut their mouths. Their eyes then focused on the commander, silently waiting for his next words. I wonder what the commander will say next. Logically, we've completed our recent training mission very well, maybe next we'll have an assessment. Think about it, we've trained them for so long, and they've never had a formal assessment. Perhaps we'll have a simulation training session. Yes, that's very possible, but even if it's a simulation, it doesn't have to be this serious. We're all capable and competent, so even if it's a simulation, we can handle it calmly. But why? Just then, the commander's phone rang. Excuse me, everyone, I need to take this call. With that, the commander left a meeting room. The instructors were left standing there, looking at each other, bewildered and at a loss. Why is the phone ringing now? I don't know, maybe it's just a coincidence. Let's just wait, it won't take him long to answer a call, right? No, some of the more observant instructors present seemed to have noticed something amiss. Their faces turned serious as they spoke earnestly. Didn't the commander always answer the phone on that same phone before? They pointed to the phone in front of the commander's seat. Hiss. A sudden realization dawned on them. Everyone was shocked. What the person had just said was true. The commander had always used that phone to answer calls, whether it was for orders from above or when he was distributing tasks. But why was he suddenly using a different phone today? There's one more thing, there's another point. I don't know if you guys noticed. When the commander heard the phone ring, the first thing he did was come out of the meeting room to answer it, and at that time, we didn't even know where he was. This all indicates that the phone he just found was very special. Maybe it's related to what the commander is about to say. After the commander went out to answer the phone, the instructors began to discuss it quietly. After all, they were really curious. They had been instructors in this training camp for many years, but they had never encountered a situation like this before. After a while, the commander finally returned to the meeting room. He looked slightly apologetic and began somewhat awkwardly. Good morning, instructors. Before we begin, I have something to tell you all. Our meeting may need to be postponed, as two other instructors haven't arrived yet. Of course, none of you need to go back. Just wait here, they'll arrive soon. I sincerely apologize for the delay. The instructors were completely dumbfounded. What's going on? Does this mean it's not just them who are attending, but all the managers in the training camp are here? How? Holy crap. Holy crap. Some instructors seemed to instantly understand. Another thought flashed through their minds. This thought shocked them, their pupils dilated. And a look of utter astonishment flashed in their eyes. If things continue like this, will two more big shots come next? Maybe the two the commander mentioned are actually big shots from some department outside. Hiss. Hearing this, some people in the room couldn't help but gasp. No wonder the commander is taking this so seriously. It turns out some big shots are coming. No, we have to perform well later. We can't let the training camp down. Thinking this, all the instructors present instantly straightened their backs, their faces becoming even more serious. Especially their bright eyes, which looked even more spirited. Soon, two more people appeared outside the conference room. Seeing these two suddenly appear, everyone in the room was instantly stunned. They felt as if they had been electrocuted, some even rubbed their eyes, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Isn't this the head of HR? Why did the head of HR suddenly come over? Hey, look who's next to the head of HR? the head of the medical department. The head of the medical department is here too." Upon seeing these two, everyone present was initially stunned, then their faces lit up with joy. Not every training camp gets to have such big shots visit, but this training camp had two of them. This was enough to demonstrate the importance of their camp. At this moment, the camp commander quickly stepped forward to greet them, saying, "Hello, both of you, you've worked hard, coming all this way to be here. Come, sit down and rest for a bit. Ha ha ha, you've managed the training camp quite well, haven't you?" The head of HR looked around and then laughed heartily. After receiving praise from the head of HR, the camp commander felt a little embarrassed. He scratched the back of his head somewhat awkwardly and said, "Oh, it's all thanks to the head of the demonstration department's excellent guidance. You know, I used to learn from you very diligently. Even now, I still hope to have the opportunity to learn from you." Ha ha ha, interesting, you're an interesting kid. A mysterious box appeared in chapter 177. However, at this moment, the head of the medical department standing to the side said to the head of the human resources department, "Head of the human resources department, you really didn't need to come. After all, this matter is still our medical department's business. How could I trouble you, head of the human resources department, to come all this way?" Hearing this, the head of the human resources department became somewhat displeased. He frowned slightly and said, "Oh dear, that's not how you put it. No, you shouldn't say that. You should know that this news isn't just about you, it's about us, and it's not just about you and us, it's about everyone, but this news clearly pertains to our medical department. Your human resources department should also have its own responsibilities," the head of the medical department said very calmly. "It's only right that the division of labor is clear." Hearing the head of the medical department say this, the head of the human resources department couldn't think of anything to say in rebuttal, but at this moment, he couldn't admit defeat. After a moment's thought, he came up with a good answer. "Head of the medical department, don't forget, I was the first to know about this." The head of HR said this with pride and satisfaction. But the next second, the words from the medical department had made him lose his footing. "Oh ho, so you're saying you were the first to know so quickly? What about the people who developed it?" Hearing this, the HR head became quite anxious. But it was clearly Fang. He paused abruptly, an instinctive reaction, not intentional. "But the researchers told me first, asking me to inform you. Can I even come and check now?" Watching the two heads bickering, the commander of the training camp was in a difficult position. He couldn't side with either of them, as he didn't know what they wanted to discuss. He had originally planned to hold a simple meeting with the instructors, but before the meeting even started, he received an urgent call from the head of human resources. The moment the phone rang, he knew something was about to happen. All right, gentlemen, let's not discuss this now. Please sit down and rest." Ultimately, the commander had no choice but to invite the two executives to sit down, while simultaneously trying to change the subject. The two executives were very tactful. Their earlier bickering was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. In fact, their relationship was quite good. At this moment, the head of human resources picked up a glass of water from the table, took a small sip, and said with a relaxed expression, All right, I won't hold it against you. Now that we're at the training camp, let's get down to business. After all, we still have a lot to do." Rumble. Hearing this, everyone present tensed up to the extreme. From the discussion between the two CEOs, it was clear they were about to announce something very significant. As for what that significant event was, it was likely what the head of the medical department was about to announce. All right, the head of the medical department replied to the head of human resources, glancing around at everyone present with a very serious and focused look. The head of the medical department's gaze made everyone feel tense. Their hearts pounded, their speed increasing. It wasn't that they were afraid, nor did they have any fear of the head of the medical department. They were simply very curious to know what the head of the medical department wanted to announce in Taoyuan. A considerable amount of time passed. Ahem, the head of the medical department cleared his throat and spoke loudly. Good morning, instructors and staff. I don't know how many of you recognize me, and I don't know how many of you don't, but that's not important. You just need to know that I have some incredibly good news to tell you. This news is so important that it made me come all the way from the medical department to your camp. The head of the medical department became more and more excited as he spoke. He took a slight breath and continued, What I'm about to say will concern the development of all humanity and the overall improvement of medical standards. So I hope you can maintain a high level of concentration during the conversation. Can you do that? Everyone present was surprised by the head of the medical department's opening remarks. They thought he would get straight to the point and get to the point. But instead, he laid the groundwork with some words, which made everyone present even more attentive. Please rest assured, leaders, please rest assured, Commander, we will definitely listen to this meeting with utmost attention. Definitely. Good, the head of the medical department shouted good, and then waved his hand, signaling everyone to quiet down. Come in, thump thump thump. With the head of the medical department's order, a team of people in special equipment walked into the conference room. Although their equipment was not the same, they all had one thing in common. They were all carrying a box of the same shape on their right. Hiss, these boxes look very special. Maybe they contain something very valuable. Why are there so many boxes? Is everything the head of the medical department mentioned inside? Don't worry, the head of the medical department will definitely tell us soon. He brought them all here, so he must want us to see them. That's right, everyone, please keep quiet. The head of the medical department just emphasized this repeatedly. Hiss, hearing this, everyone present simultaneously shut their mouths, and for a moment, no one spoke. At this moment, the head of the medical department slowly spoke up. All right, these boxes in front of you are from the medical department's R&D department. I believe everyone here is very curious about what's inside all these boxes. Don't worry, you'll find out soon. Huff, huff, huff. Everyone present gasped for breath, but no one made a sound. Chapter 178. Such a big box, and this is all it contains. Do you know what's on those boxes the head of the medical department brought? No way, no way. Surely no one doesn't know. It's so obvious. Surely no one doesn't know. From what you're saying, it seems you do know. Then tell me what's in those boxes. The man's expression shifted instantly, but he didn't want to give up so easily. So, his eyes darted around, and he quickly said, it's so obvious, do I need to say it? Think about what the head of the medical department brought. It's definitely good stuff. Besides, look at the people carrying those boxes, even though they're dressed in suits. Actually, look at their arms, those muscles, they've definitely trained. Maybe few of you here can match their skills. Hiss, hearing this, everyone present gasped. Their minds went blank, and they all lost their composure. Of course, their eyes shone with an intense fervor, because the more important the contents of the box, the more excited and eager they should be. Their eyes should burn with fervor. Why? The reason is quite simple, the box is here. He is the head of the medical department, who brought it all the way from the medical department's research lab. Why did the head of the medical department choose to come to our training camp instead of all the other training camps? It clearly shows the head of the medical department's confidence in our training camp and his expectations of us. Ha ha ha, everyone loves to hear that, but now we just don't know what the head of the medical department will say next. We've all been waiting here for a long time. What's the rush? Young people can't be so hasty. These things need to be waited for. An older instructor, with a more mature temperament, though his heart was filled with excitement, maintained a calm composure due to his mature mindset. We need to stay calm and listen to what the head of the medical department has to say next. They might assign us some special tasks. With the encouragement of some experienced instructors, everyone instantly quieted down. Although their hearts were still racing, they were mostly holding their breath and listening intently to what the head of the medical department had to say. Ahem, everyone, please be quiet for a moment. Listen to me first, don't be too anxious or excited. Just tell me what's going to happen. I know you're curious, but trust me, I'll answer all your questions. The head of the medical department cleared his throat and spoke very politely and gently. After all, the head of the medical department was in charge of the medical department, and his style wasn't as decisive as the head of the human resources department. He spoke more gently. Come on, open the boxes first. Open the boxes and let all the instructors here see what's inside. Don't let everyone have a good look. This is the latest research result from the medical department's R&D office. After saying this, the head of the medical department told one of the teams to open the boxes they were holding. As the lid of the box slowly opened, everyone present stared intently. They held their breath, craning their necks, afraid of missing anything. But what they saw next left them completely dumbfounded. What's going on? Looking at the contents of the boxes, some of the instructors were completely bewildered. They didn't know what it meant. They looked at each other, bewildered and at a loss. Such a big box and all it contains is such a tiny bottle, that's such a waste. I wonder what's in that bottle. It looks like a liquid. Could it be some kind of medicine? But it doesn't look like it. A casual remark from one instructor made some other instructors realize something. That's quite possible. Just think about it. Who is that guy up ahead? That guy up ahead is definitely the head of the medical department. No doubt about it. If you don't even know the head of the medical department, you probably don't need to work here, some people said dismissively. But that person calmly said, although everyone thinks so, that's right. That guy up ahead is the head of the medical department. What does the medical department do? The medical department is for healing and treatment, so I think the thing in that little bottle is probably some kind of medicine. Just as this person finished speaking, the head of the personnel department suddenly appeared. Ha, I didn't expect you guys to be so clever. You actually thought of this possibility right away, but, at this point, the HR manager's face instantly fell, and he became extremely serious. Do you only see the head of the medical department? Do you think you can just pretend the HR manager doesn't exist? No. Hearing the HR manager's words, everyone present panicked instantly. They had just, perhaps because they were too excited, forgotten that the HR manager was still there. No, the HR director still holds a high place in our hearts, but this is the direction we're considering. Think about it, you and the medical director arrived at the same time with this news, but it was the medical director who announced it. That naturally leads people to think that this is directly related to the medical department. It's our instinctive reaction. Don't take this year's director too seriously. Some of the instructors very politely explained the situation to the film and television department director. After the explanation, their eyes returned to the bottles in front of them. They were genuinely curious about what was inside. Although at first glance it looked like some liquid similar to water, could it really be that simple? Chapter 179. A tenfold increase in physique is not a dream. Hey, head of the medical department, could you just tell us what's in the bottle? Just looking at it, it looks like a bottle of water, but judging by the way you've prepared it, so many people carrying it in such a tightly packed box, it's definitely not ordinary water. Hearing this, the head of the medical department looked at the instructor meaningfully, paused, and then said, you're right, this isn't ordinary water, nor is it ordinary quality water. I didn't expect you to have such a keen eye, seeing through the mystery at a glance. Of course, just as he was about to continue, the head of the medical department suddenly thought of something. How about this? Each of you sign this agreement first, then I'll tell you. The head of the medical department spoke while taking out a stack of papers from his bag. Hearing the head of the medical department say this, the instructors present were stunned at first, but quickly reacted. Such an important matter definitely needs to be kept confidential. This is just routine, and they've seen many similar situations in their positions. Thinking this, everyone present readily signed the agreement. Is that all right now, boss? Can you tell us what you brought this time? Yes, boss, please tell us. Look, everyone has signed confidentiality agreements, and those in this conference room are basically people with certain access to know. Okay, actually, you don't need to call me the head of the medical department all the time. Just call me by my name, Joe Fang, head of the medical department, Joe Fang. Seeing that everyone had finished their preparations, Joe Fang readily spoke. This is the latest super-enhancing agent developed by the medical department's research lab. It took 4 months from development to now. As for the specific contents, and its main effects, at this point, Joe Fang looked at the head of the Human Resources Department. Let the head of HR explain its main functions to you, Joe Fang thought. He felt it was better for the head of HR to explain the Super Enhancer's functions, as he might have more experience with it. Ahem, the head of HR immediately understood. He cleared his throat and said, "Hello, instructors. Many of you may not know me, so let me introduce myself first. My name is Li Deng, the current head of HR. You can call me Li Deng or just head." Li Deng's expression remained serious as always, regardless of the topic. What you are presented with now is a super enhancer developed by the medical department, which can improve physical fitness. During the 4 months of development, it underwent rigorous testing by our technical staff to ensure there were no problems. The main reason I'm here at your camp is to tell you that all of you will undergo this enhancement process. Li Deng, who had been silent for a while, seemed to suddenly remember something. He quickly added, "By the way, shouldn't everyone in your camp be training and learning the auxiliary boxing techniques we gave you before?" The instructors present wanted to speak, but in front of the two commanders, they weren't sure if they could. so they could only remain silent. What's going on? Doesn't anyone here have anyone to tell you? Seeing that everyone remained silent and no one answered, Li Deng raised his voice and shouted. At this moment, the camp commander suddenly shuddered. Finally, he mustered his courage, stepped forward, and said softly, reporting to the commanders, our camp has been strengthening the practice of auxiliary boxing techniques according to the requirements from above. We've now entered the 4th stage. Everyone is practicing with all their might and moving towards the next goal. Report complete. Please give instructions. The camp commander instantly entered a state of receiving orders. He couldn't help it. Li Deng's tone just now gave him the feeling that he was issuing a task. Good, very good. Since everyone is training, everyone must cooperate with the use of this enhancement agent. However, I need to remind you that if anyone has never practiced auxiliary boxing techniques, they absolutely cannot undergo this enhancement. After saying this, Li Deng silently sat down and didn't say anything more. After a while, another instructor mustered up the courage to speak up. Boss, I have a question, but I'm not sure if I should ask it. Hearing that someone still had questions, the head of the medical department was the first to speak up. Please feel free to ask any questions you have. The main purpose of this meeting is to discuss this issue. Thank you, boss. We just heard the head of the personnel department talk about it. Its main function is to enhance physical fitness, but how is this enhancement of physical fitness measured? How is it quantified? What you're trying to say is, to what extent can it enhance physical fitness, boss? Perhaps because he was worried that the boss wouldn't understand his question, the instructor repeatedly explained what he was saying. But just as he was explaining again, the head of the medical department blurted out, more than 10 times, as long as you practice the auxiliary fist technique, plus this enhancement training, the final increase in physique will be at least 10 times. A collective gasp swept through the room. Their pupils dilated instantly, a hint of surprise flashing in their eyes. But their hearts were filled with excitement. Holy crap, what kind of divine artifact is this? It can increase physique by more than 10 times again. That's terrifying. Terrifying. Do you doubt the abilities of the people in our medical department? No, absolutely not. Hearing this, Zhou Feng, the head of the medical department, smiled and said, you should indeed be skeptical of them. Why? The head of the medical department's words completely baffled everyone present. Having developed such a powerful enhancer, how can we doubt their capabilities? Chapter 180. The first batch of people to undergo enhancement agents. I was just saying it casually. Besides, you should experience it first before deciding. After all, theory is no substitute for practice, Li Deng said with a smile, then spoke very seriously. Since you all know about this and have already accepted it, then prepare yourselves mentally. We didn't bring that many super-enhancing agents this time, which is just enough for you, so you're very lucky, the head of the medical department said happily. Of course, the happiest were all the instructors present. When the head of personnel told them that this super-enhancing agent could increase physical fitness tenfold, they had been eagerly anticipating having such an agent. Since you're all ready, let's begin now. Get ready to change your clothes and then help them, the head of personnel said to the team they had brought. Why did the HR manager say that to them? Aren't they all wearing formal attire? Why are they suddenly being asked to change? I don't know. If that's the case, there shouldn't be a reason, since they've been protecting the enhancer all the way. Gentlemen, I have 2 questions. I'm wondering if I should ask them and you can help me decide. The HR manager and the medical manager looked at each other, smiled, and finally said slightly, like I said at the beginning, just ask whatever questions you have. That's right, just ask. If we can answer you, we will try our best. Of course, if we can't answer you, or if your answer involves some confidential topics, we will give you a hint so you won't ask any more questions. Hearing that the 2 managers were so agreeable, the instructor finally relaxed and slowly said, as you both just said, these are 2 bottles of super strong enhancer, but how are these enhancers used? Are they taken orally, applied topically, or injected? The instructor had only voiced half of his question when the 2 bosses burst into laughter. The head of the medical department laughed and said, that's a clever question. Let me put it this way, look back, and you'll understand. What? Look back? Why did the head of the medical department say that looking back would make it clear? Did the answer lie behind it? The instructors, skeptical, turned their heads away, but the next second, they were completely bewildered. When did these medical personnel arrive? why didn't we feel anything? And the team that protected these super enhanced machines is gone. Rumble. Rumble. For a moment, everyone present felt extremely confused. But unconsciously, they all focused their attention on the two bosses. Because they knew this had happened because their superiors had arranged it beforehand. If they really wanted to know why this had happened, they would have to look for the answer in their superiors. Boss, when did these people come in? No, and when did that group leave? Why didn't we feel anything? A murmur rippled through the room. This sentence expressed the thoughts of all the instructors present. They were all outstanding and excellent soldiers. They were only here as instructors for various reasons. Although they hadn't gone on their adventures like before, and although they had only stayed in this training camp, it didn't mean their strength was inferior to anyone else. Quite the opposite. Their strength was among the best of all the soldiers. Being able to serve as instructors in this training camp was a recognition of their overall strength. Because every training camp has very strict requirements, only truly outstanding people can enter. Even ordinary instructors are subject to these requirements, let alone instructors of their rank. Looking at the group of people before him, still completely bewildered, the head of the medical department shook his head and smiled, saying, "Take a closer look. Don't their faces seem familiar?" PFFT. PFFT, the head of the medical department's words were like a wake-up call. The moment he finished speaking, swish swish swish, everyone's eyes turned back in that instant. Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap, so that's how it is, so that's how it is, got it, I got it. I got it instantly, some of the sharp-eyed instructors exclaimed in surprise. Because at that moment, they only needed to look closely to discover the clue. So they were in the same group just now. That's why I didn't recognize them at first, they've changed their clothes. I really didn't expect them to look so different before and after changing, maybe that's why the boss told them to change earlier, but why? Why do their clothes look so much like medical staff's? The instructors were completely confused again. But they didn't need to ask, the head of the medical department came over to answer their questions. Alright, I know you have a lot of questions, let me explain from beginning to end. The head of the medical department paused, then continued, actually, they were the first group to receive the super strength enhancement agent, so their physique is incomparable to ordinary people. As for why they've all changed into medical staff uniforms, it's because they are professionals who will assist you with your self-enhancement. At this point, the head of the Human Resources Department couldn't help but chime in. They are a group of exceptionally talented individuals, not only physically strong but also highly accomplished in various disciplines. Hiss. Hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but take another look at these people. This was unbelievable. Chapter 181. What? There are even side effects. Alright, now that you all know about this, I hope you can keep this a secret, because this enhancement agent hasn't reached the point of mass production yet. It's just a gradual rollout plan. The head of personnel looked at everyone present and spoke very seriously. After all, this kind of super enhancement involves many research findings and related secrets, so everyone must take this matter seriously. Hearing the head of personnel's words, the camp commander immediately stepped forward to cooperate, saying, "Did you all hear that? The head of personnel is asking you to keep this a secret? Can you do it?" It has to be said that those in positions of power are all quite capable. This camp commander exuded an aura of dominance from the very first word. Reporting to the two chiefs, reporting to the commander, we will definitely keep this matter strictly confidential. Please rest assured, you don't need to tell us, we already know what to do. After all, it's related to a major secret here. Very good. The chiefs of the personnel department and the medical department, seeing that these people were quite quick to understand, nodded with satisfaction. Then they said to everyone present, "Alright, now everything that needed to be explained has been explained, and everything that needed to be said has been said. Next, prepare to undergo the enhancement machine enhancement. During this process, you just need to keep a relaxed mood and not resist." In the medical field, the chief of the medical department possessed considerable persuasive skills. Back in the day, the chief of the medical department was a highly skilled medical professional. Through his various efforts, he eventually rose to his current position, a journey that was far from easy. Okay, let's begin. All the instructors present remained seated, their bare shoulders exposed, silently waiting. Meanwhile, the medical staff had already retrieved the relevant equipment from the boxes. This included needle holes, cotton, and a super strengthening machine. The medical staff injected the super strengthening filament into the needle hole and then gently pushed it forward slightly. causing the needle tip to protrude a little to ensure there were no air bubbles inside. This series of rapid movements gave the impression that their skills were highly proficient. Some instructors who were initially afraid of injections found that looking at these adorable people before them, they weren't so scared anymore. After the preparations were complete, the medical staff approached each instructor to administer the strengthening agent. Every instructor present was incredibly muscular, possessing immense strength. Compared to their power, the force of the needle was insignificant. Wow, I didn't expect the needle holes here to be so fine. I didn't feel anything at all after it went in. I thought there would be some pain, but I didn't feel anything at all. What are you afraid of? The training before was much more painful than this. You've already gotten through such tough training. Are you afraid of this now? No way, no way, no one's afraid of this, right? The instructors who were undergoing the enhancement treatment were still in the mood to chat. From the pleasant expressions on their faces, it was clear that they were very comfortable at this moment. Do you think this enhancement agent has an anesthetic effect? Why does it feel so mild? No, that's not quite right. Because enhancement agents usually don't just mix in random things. Then how do you explain this? I believe this isn't your first time getting an injection, right? Tell me, when have you ever gotten an injection without feeling anything at all? The instructor asked the question that had been lingering in the minds of all the instructors present for so long. To be honest, they were all very curious. Perhaps the needle hole is special. Have you noticed how tiny it is, like a capillary? Something so small shouldn't be noticeable, but if the enhancer really has an anesthetic effect, that's hard to say. The instructor's discussion dragged on without a convincing answer. Finally, the head of the medical department stepped in to explain. He directly addressed the large number of patients present, then slightly raised his head and said, "Ha, the reason you have such questions is that the enhancer has already produced its first round of effects in your bodies." What? The enhancer has already produced its first round of effects in your bodies? What is the first round of effects? Does it mean there will be many more rounds of effects later? A rumble. A rumble. Everyone present was stunned, staring intently at the head of the medical department. Their eyes were full of doubt, hoping that the head of the department could explain what this meant as soon as possible. That's right, the fact that you didn't feel any fear during the insertion was actually its first effect, or more accurately, its first layer of side effects. PFFT, side effects? This thing has side effects. Damn, we were careless. Why didn't we ask clearly about side effects before proceeding with the enhancement? As everyone present became increasingly agitated, the HR manager took 10 steps forward and gently reassured them. Actually, you don't need to worry about this side effect. It will soon be covered by the second round of effects. That's right. So, as long as you successfully undergo the enhancement, there will be no side effects for you overall. To put it simply, what you're experiencing now is just a process. Once you complete this process, there won't be any side effects. Hiss. After hearing the two managers' instructions, everyone present suddenly understood. So that's how it is. This is amazing. I've never heard of anything that can have such a function just by talking. This is beyond amazing. It's like a super powerful elixir from a novel. You guys, I'm already looking forward to the effects. Chapter 182 The Multiple Effects of the Enhancer. Actually, there's no need to expect much. We can already tell the result will be very satisfying. Think about it, if the result wasn't satisfactory, they wouldn't have gained the approval of the two bosses. You know, these two bosses are very knowledgeable. Their knowledge is incredibly broad. The fact that they're personally promoting this enhancer shows their approval of it. Yes, think about it. This was developed by the medical department's research lab. How could it possibly disappoint? Just wait quietly. Wait until your posture improves tenfold, then we can have a little competition. How about that? Sure, we have to have a competition. While those present were discussing, some of the instructors, whose physiques were already quite good, experienced even more noticeable effects. They were sweating profusely, their muscles constantly tensing. Slowly. Damn, how come the effect is so obvious? I feel like I'm incredibly strong now, but the power inside my body keeps expanding and increasing. Wait a minute, why don't I feel that way? Me neither. Right now, besides feeling lightheaded, I don't feel anything else, let alone feel incredibly strong. Why do you feel lightheaded too? Is it that feeling like you could fly away with a light jump? Yes, that's it. Do you feel it too? No way. Why are your reactions so strange? Is it just me who feels heavier and heavier? At this point in the discussion, All the instructors were almost dumbfounded. They really couldn't understand the reason for this phenomenon, and they didn't know how to explain it. It felt like no explanation fit the current situation. However, at this moment, the head of the medical department and the head of the human resources department slowly walked over from behind. They asked with great concern, "How are you all feeling, instructors? Do you feel a significant difference compared to before? I'm sure you'll feel the changes. After all, so much time has passed. The enhanced memory is starting to take effect. Haha, maybe they're already ready to test their skills." It has to be said that the HR manager has seen it all, especially when it comes to judging these experts. He can spot their excitement instantly. Reporting to the two managers, the feeling before and after the enhancement is truly very different, especially now. I feel much stronger than before. Before, I could probably only lift 800 kilograms, but now I can definitely lift over 1,800 kilograms, one of the instructors patted his chest and said confidently. He couldn't help it, he felt his muscles had grown twice their original size. This wasn't just muscle expansion, but also an expansion of strength and confidence. But, the instructor hesitated, seemingly wanting to say something but holding back for fear of uttering a word. Seeing this, the head of HR smiled and said, "Is there something you want to say? If so, just say it, we're all family here, no need to be so reserved." Hearing the head of HR's words, the instructor finally relaxed. He took a deep breath and said, "But I have a question I don't understand, so I'd like to ask you two heads. I hope you can help me answer it." The heads of the medical department and HR looked at each other, then finally smiled knowingly. They really hadn't expected this instructor to be so polite. "Haha, it's nothing at all. Just tell me what's wrong. I just talked to the other instructors about their changes, but I noticed everyone's changes are different. Why is that?" Like what I just told the two heads, I feel incredibly strong, but the instructor next to me feels light as a feather, and the instructor in front of me feels his weight is constantly increasing. Why is that? After listening to the instructor's explanation, the head of the medical department roughly understood what he wanted to ask. He quickly organized his thoughts and readily said, "I see. I didn't expect you to discover the secret so quickly. I was originally planning to tell you later. Since you've already discovered part of it, I'll tell you directly." Wow. There's a secret here? It wasn't supposed to be told to us? Are we only being told now because we've discovered it? After hearing the words of the head of the medical department, everyone present felt a surge of shock. They were all very shocked, and a hint of surprise flashed in their eyes. Actually, this super powerful enhancer doesn't have any fixed effects. The head of the medical department got straight to the point in a second, slowly explaining, while its overall performance is to improve physical attributes, in the process, it will allow different people to experience significant improvements in different areas. There's a phenomenon you just noticed. Some people feel their strength has increased, some feel their weight has increased. Of course, some people will feel lightheaded. You'll find that their jumping ability is exceptionally good. PFFT. PFFT, is it really that powerful? Really that powerful? If that's the case, then it's incredibly effective no matter which direction you develop in. But it's just an ordinary enhancer. How can it limit development in any direction? At this moment, the head of the Human Resources Department, acting as a professional, stepped forward to explain, "Why can't we know that? Just like your usual training, everyone has their own unique skills, and it will develop and improve in the areas you excel in. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels." Chapter 183 First Release, Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company. Hey HR Director, we've had a question for you. After this experience, we've all witnessed the power of this enhancer, so we're all very curious about who developed it. One instructor had barely finished speaking when another interrupted. "No, you shouldn't say that. Something this advanced must have been developed by a team in the research lab. It's probably the work of a team." Right. So which team developed it? The two instructors looked at the HR director, silently awaiting his answer. The HR director smiled slightly and slowly began, "I knew you'd ask that. But to be honest, while this enhancer was developed by the medical department's research lab, he didn't have much connection to the research team there. He was more of a figurehead technician. This wasn't exactly a secret, so the HR director didn't hide anything from them. Not issued by a member of the research team. Hearing the head of HR say this, everyone present was shocked. Their pupils dilated instantly, a hint of unwilling confidence flashing in their eyes. That's right, but its developer is also considered part of our medical department, and he has authorized our department to use it fully. So it was developed by our medical department, hiss, everyone present gasped. If they hadn't heard the head of HR say it themselves, they would never have believed it. If anyone else had said this, it would have been utterly absurd. The research team in the medical department is a top-tier medical team. If even they couldn't develop it, who could? Could the head of HR tell us who the real developer is? The instructor asked cautiously. Although he knew that asking might involve some secrets, he couldn't suppress his curiosity. They could only muster their courage and ask the head of HR, just to see what would happen. Actually, you all know this person too. Just as the head of HR was about to explain things to them, the medical staff, seemingly wanting to say something, slowly walked over from the other side, eating their health codes, and then spoke up. Ho ha, actually, you all know the real developer of this enhancer, and you should all be quite familiar with him. Rumble. Rumble. What? We know the developer of this enhancer. Who is it? Could it really be one of us? Hiss. At this moment, everyone present couldn't help but look around at the people around them, wanting to be the first to find the developer of this enhancer. Because its function and effect were simply too powerful. As instructors in this camp, they could say they had seen a lot of things, but in all their years of traveling around, they had never seen anything more miraculous than this enhancer. Actually, its developer is the one who was very popular a while ago. At this point, the head of HR paused, not wanting to say it so quickly. But seeing the eager looks in everyone's eyes, the head of the medical department couldn't bear not to tell them. This is Fang Heng, the Fang the Great you all know. I believe you've all had a very deep impression of him since his first mecha appearance, not to mention the series of high-tech products he invented, allowing us to instantly surpass Earth. The head of the medical department maintained a proud and enthusiastic tone throughout. Having someone as good as Fang Heng was incredibly fortunate. Although Fang Heng had only just graduated high school and hadn't even entered a university, his true talent and research capabilities were far superior to those of university graduates. What? It's actually Fang Heng. This is too sudden. It is a bit sudden. And wasn't Fang Heng previously in charge of heavy industry research? How come he suddenly changed direction to develop medical products? At this moment, the head of human resources found an opportunity and slowly explained. To be more precise, it wasn't Fang Heng who developed it personally, but rather his team. To put it another way, the primary owner of this enhancer is Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company. As soon as he finished speaking, a commotion erupted in the room. It's Fang Dashan. So it's Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company. What a pity, but what? Do you have some special connection with Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company? Of course. Do you remember when Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company was in its early stages? They were recruiting a lot of talent. The instructor paused, his face full of regret, and said, I considered working as a security guard at their company back then, but due to various reasons, I didn't go. Thinking about it now, it's such a pity. If I had successfully applied back then, with my abilities, I could definitely have entered Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company. If I had entered Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company back then, I can now proudly say that this enhancer came from my company, and my boss is Fang Heng. Ha ha ha. The instructor rarely recalled the details of the past, and every time he did, his heart ached because it was such a pity. What, you actually? If I remember correctly, you were practically a top-tier soldier back then, and someone with that rank would actually work as a security guard for a small company. Some of the more closed-minded people nearby were also astonished, seemingly unable to understand why he would make such a choice. In their eyes, being a security guard in a company and being an instructor in their training camp were completely different levels. Friend, we don't quite agree with what you're saying. If you were referring to another company, we have nothing to say, but if you're talking about Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company, then we hope you'll do your research on that company before you speak. Wow. Insightful observation. Chapter 184 Fang Dashan's latest arrangements. Fang Dashan is really hot lately. Have you noticed that all the recent headlines are about him, from his first public appearance with his mecha to his high-energy batteries, super chips, and now this super powerful enhancer? Tisk tisk tisk, what kind of environment could produce such a high-level talent? I'm really curious about what Fang Dashan went through. Actually, compared to Fang Dashan's past experiences, we should be more curious about what big moves he'll make next. Think about it, since Fang Dashan became famous, everything he's done has been eye-opening. Every new technological invention he makes is leading the entire market. Hiss. This sentence truly expressed the feelings of everyone present. Upon hearing this, everyone couldn't help but gasp. They genuinely felt a sense of dread for Fang Dashan. Of course, they also felt a sliver of relief. They were relieved that Fang Dashan was on their side. They really couldn't imagine how they would cope if Fang Dashan were on the opposing side. Competing with Fang Dashan would be incredibly stressful. What new moves are in store? Ahem. Seeing the conversation getting increasingly absurd and escalating, the head of HR cleared his throat, signaling them to stop. Just then, the head of the medical department approached with a serious expression and said, I hope everyone here understands their direction. Your mentor, Fang, has made significant contributions to our team, and I hope you won't casually disclose any information about him. Perhaps this was just the nature of the medical department head. He usually dealt with matters of medical research, and was therefore quite lenient. But no sooner had he finished speaking than the head of HR interjected, the head of the medical department speaks more gently, but I speak more seriously. However, some things must be said up front, for your own good, which is, I hope you all remember what should be said, what shouldn't be said, and what to say in what situation, just like every single thing that happened here today. I hope you understand what you've experienced. As for the super enhancing agent, this isn't about asking you to keep a secret, but rather that you absolutely must keep a secret. His voice was loud and clear, his gaze precise. The head of HR's words exuded a very powerful aura, creating a sense of immense pressure. Reporting to the two leaders, we will only disclose what happened in our camp today here. We will not speak of it to anyone else. Of course, if you two leaders have any other instructions, please feel free to speak. Very good, it's best that you understand this. This is why your training camp was chosen as one of the first places to receive the enhancement agent. The higher-ups value not only your strength but also your discipline. We believe in you, and we will continue to maintain this. Time passed slowly. During this time, the various side effects caused by the underwater trench became increasingly apparent. At this moment, Fang Heng was no longer researching various technologies in the laboratory. Because that moment was drawing ever closer. He sat solemnly at his desk, his phone playing the latest news from Earth. Previously, news on Earth was diverse, but since last month, the news media seemed to have changed their style. Every day, their headlines and hot topics were related to one type of issue, various natural disasters. This wasn't actually the result of media hype, but rather, over the past 2 months, various natural disasters that defy scientific explanation have frequently occurred across different parts of Earth. This change in the style of the Earth Daily, shifting from diverse news reports to a single, uniform style, has instilled fear and anxiety in many. Consequently, doomsday theories have become a common topic of conversation and a source of deep worry for some. According to the latest data from the Earth Daily, a violent geological earthquake has occurred near Country R, and an unprecedented tsunami has occurred in the MLA Strait. A super hurricane of Category 10 or higher is very likely to occur near Miguel. The news reports continued, and the data kept updating. Every piece of information in the news intensified the anxieties of many. While people used to watch the news and see reports of natural disasters, the frequency was very low, and they were able to prepare protective measures in advance. But recently, the news reports indicate a very high frequency of these disasters, and the scientific instruments are barely registering the damage before the disaster begins, leaving no time for rescue efforts. Our country is experiencing geological tremors so quickly. Fang Heng frowned slightly, clearly feeling immense pressure. However, he quickly relaxed. Although it happened much earlier than predicted, thankfully the type is the same as predicted, and the timing largely matches the latest figures. If that's the case, with current technological advancements, we can basically control this phenomenon. Thinking this, Fang Heng breathed a slight sigh of relief. Honestly, while his predictions were usually accurate, the frequent events of the past 2 months had instilled a lingering fear in him. He couldn't imagine what would have happened if he hadn't developed mechas and other high-tech equipment immediately. Would he be in a state of panic? Would he be working like many others outside? Fang Heng shook his head slightly and swiped his finger to see the comments below. He was surprised by the abundance of comments. Moreover, The latest comment was only 1 minute ago. This shows how high the news's popularity is, and how much attention it's drawing. I didn't expect them to act so quickly. As for the others, they're still arrogant and conceited, but they don't know what they're facing. Chapter 185 The second top-level meeting. Underneath the Blue Star Daily News articles, there were all sorts of comments. Each comment represented a different person's perspective. Perhaps their primary concern was worry and anxiety. Why do I keep seeing this kind of news lately? It's so annoying. It's not a matter of being annoyed or not anymore, but rather figuring out why so many natural disasters have occurred in the past 2 months. Could it be because men are about to undergo a huge change? Or perhaps, upon seeing this comment, all the netizens stopped, taking a deep breath and staring at it without flinching. A long while passed. Weren't there some weirdos online saying something about a huge change coming? Is this what they were talking about? If that's really the case, will Blue Star just disappear like that? Then, just as everyone was in a light-hearted mood, another comment suddenly appeared, voicing everyone's concerns. You're actually thinking about whether Earth will disappear? How can anyone think of such a childish question? Upstairs, I really hope you go back and check the history. Earth has existed for so long, how could it just disappear like that? Sigh, I really don't understand why you people think so much. You're just like someone selling cabbages, worrying about the price of cabbages. Use that time to go to bed. As soon as this comment was posted, many more followed. They all supported the same viewpoint, which could be described as an optimistic attitude. Exactly, stop worrying unnecessarily. If there really were such a danger, there would be official news by now. Don't you think about how advanced technology is these days? If this were truly happening, we would have received relevant forecasts long ago. Actually, just relax. It's a normal natural phenomenon. It just happens to be more frequent during this period. That's right, the vibrations in our country before were simply caused by the collision between tectonic plates. Some even chimed in, don't worry, some experts have said it's just a normal development process. They say it's due to the long geological history and the resulting plate movement. How? What did you just say? Experts? Or experts? If those experts tell you not to eat breakfast, do you really skip breakfast? How? Lol. Fang Heng silently watched them post comments. Finally, Fang Heng couldn't help but smile slightly. There were always those experts in the comments section. Their comments were incredibly funny and pleasant to listen to. Especially the last sentence. Even Fang Heng himself found it very interesting. Of course, most of the people commenting under that news article were just joking and egging him on. Deep down, they didn't believe in these things at all. They just thought it was all a very normal natural phenomenon. But what they didn't know was that in the next 3 months, earth-shattering changes would occur on Blue Star. And it was precisely because of those changes that they were reconsidering their future path. Sigh, it seems they were right. Even now, they won't notice anything. Fang Heng looked at the comments on his phone, feeling a little regretful, and shook his head slightly, sighing. I thought that after so many similar things happening frequently in the past 2 months, they would have noticed something, but I didn't expect that they would just be joking and egging him on in the end. It seems they have been living in comfort for too long. Just as Fang Heng was feeling very emotional, his phone suddenly rang. Fang Heng couldn't help but pick up his phone and check it. It was a phone call. The moment Fang Heng saw the contact on his phone, his heart tightened, and his expression turned increasingly serious. It wasn't for any particular reason, but simply because the caller ID showed an unusual number. In fact, the instant he saw the number, Fang Heng had already roughly guessed what was about to happen. Fang Heng picked up the phone and answered politely, saying, "Hello, this is Fang Heng." "Ha? Fang Heng, how come you're so polite? I didn't expect you to be this kind of person." "I've learned something new." The HR manager's cheerful voice came from the other end of the line. Actually, the HR manager hadn't spoken to Fang Heng in a long time. His sudden call meant he had something important to discuss. Their conversations would likely become more frequent, because things were different now than 2 months ago. The situation was becoming increasingly serious, and to ensure the smooth implementation of the SORN plan, they needed to discuss things carefully. "Boss, is there something you need to arrange by calling me all of a sudden?" At this point, Fang Heng was no longer in the mood for jokes. He paused slightly before getting straight to the point. "Just say what it is. We're all listening. The situation is very serious right now. We should waste time on the phone. We should spend more time on planning." Hearing Fang Heng's words, The HR manager didn't mince words. He instantly became serious and said, Fang Heng, I'm sure you've seen the news. We should proceed with the next step of the plan. To be precise, it should be the next step of preparation. The HR manager frowned slightly as he spoke, sensing that the next phase might be even more difficult and arduous than before. The main reason I'm calling you is to inform you to attend a top-level meeting as soon as possible. We'll revise our plans there. Hearing this, Fang Heng immediately replied, Okay, no problem. Actually, I was going to call you anyway, since the circumstances are different now. For the better execution of our soaring plan, we need to make some overall changes to cope with the more complex situations ahead, Fang Heng stated decisively. Chapter 186 Highest Level of Protective Facilities. Soon, Fang Heng packed a lot of documents into his briefcase and strode towards the company gate. Just as he stopped at the gate, a black sedan pulled up in front of him. The car door slowly opened. The person inside gave Fang Heng a slight nod, and Fang Heng, seemingly recognizing the person, smiled slightly in return. After this brief greeting, Fang Heng quickly got into the sedan. The car door closed instantly after he entered. Even with a large crowd on the road, it would be difficult to see who was inside, let alone their origins. Although the sedan looked ordinary as could be, what they didn't know was that it was actually a top-of-the-line vehicle, its defensive capabilities reaching the highest level for its class. This car was specially arranged by the head of human resources in consultation with the equipment department for transporting Fang Heng. There was no other way. As the situation progressed, Fang Heng's importance became increasingly apparent. In the eyes of the head of the rock department and his team, Fang Heng's safety was directly linked to the successful execution of the soaring plan. Therefore, Fang Heng's safety could not be compromised. Soon, Fang Heng arrived at the conference room where the top-level meeting was being held in a car. By this time, the conference room was already full. Only one seat was left, and it was clearly reserved for Fang Heng. That seat was a symbol of his very distinguished status. Seeing Fang Heng slowly walk in, the head of the Human Resources Department stood up first and went over to greet him, saying, Ha, Fang Heng, you've finally arrived, everyone's been waiting for you. Hearing the head of the Human Resources Department say this, Fang Heng was stunned for a moment. He thought he had arrived too late and had kept everyone waiting. Fang Heng, somewhat embarrassed, began to speak slightly. Dear executives, I am truly sorry to have kept you waiting. Just now, Fang Heng wanted to explain further, but just as he was about to continue, he was interrupted by the head of the medical department. Oh dear, Fang Heng, what are you saying? The head of the medical department readily agreed. We're all on the same side. How can you say such things? Besides, we just arrived. Your location is farther than ours, so being a little late is understandable. Besides, we haven't even reached the agreed-upon location yet. Exactly. The head of the medical department is right. Fang Heng, please don't say that. Everyone has missed you terribly. It's been over 2 months since we last saw you. Ha, you guys don't know. This guy is always clamoring to see Fang Heng, and now you've finally met him. The head of the equipment department awkwardly scratched the back of his head and laughed sheepishly. He hadn't expected to be said that way. But what he had just said was true. He was indeed eager to see his idol, Fang Heng. Ever since Fang Heng created the first mecha, he had silently felt excited, proud, and honored for Fang Heng. Alright, now that we've arrived at the branch office, everyone, stop standing and talk, come and sit down. Fang Heng came all this way, he must be tired now. You don't want him standing there the whole time, do you? Oh, right, Fang Heng, come and sit down first. Hearing everyone's invitation to sit down, Fang Heng didn't refuse any more, and sat down without hesitation. After 2 months of development, he had already figured out how to prepare for the next stage. In fact, during the car ride, Fang Heng had already thought about what to arrange for today's meeting. So, Fang Heng was ready to give a long and detailed speech. However, when Fang Heng sat down, the room was very quiet. All the other executives' eyes were focused on Fang Heng. In fact, after what had happened in the past 2 months, every executive present had begun to admire Fang Heng from the bottom of their hearts. They no longer held a skeptical attitude towards him as before. Because the things Fang Heng predicted were unpredictable even with the latest technology. Even if it could be predicted in advance, the time frame is nowhere near what Fang Heng predicted. This is precisely why Fang Heng has gradually earned the respect of the CEOs. Previously, the youngest person qualified to attend top-level meetings was the head of human resources. At 45, he earned the recognition of the CEOs through his exceptional abilities and outstanding achievements, thus being promoted to head of human resources. However, since the last top-level meeting, everything seems to have subtly changed. Now, the youngest person in this meeting room is no longer him, nor is he 45 years old. It's Fang Heng, who is exactly 18 years old this year. Ahem, what's going on here? Fang Heng, seeing everyone silent, couldn't help but break the silence. We were just waiting for you to speak, Fang Heng, weren't we? You're all waiting for me to speak. Fang Heng looked at them hesitantly. But as soon as Fang Heng finished speaking, they all nodded, indicating that everything Fang Heng had said was correct. Sigh, since that's how it is, Fang Heng shook his head helplessly, then put on a very serious expression and said directly, since that's the case, then you can all first state one achievement of each department in the past 2 months. Shall we start with you? Fang Heng looked to his right, where the head of the Human Resources Department was standing. Okay, hearing that Fang Heng wanted him to be the first to speak, the head of the Human Resources Department didn't hesitate at all, but readily stood up to begin. Fang Heng, and all the other department heads, good morning. I am the head of the Human Resources Department, and I will now recount some of the achievements and results that the Human Resources Department has made in the past 2 months. As he spoke, the head of the Human Resources Department stood tall and proud, full of vigor. Just from his tone and demeanor, one could feel that the Human Resources Department had made great progress in the past 2 months. In the past 2 months, the Human Resources Department has successfully completed the training of over 10 million newly recruited special volunteers. The entire training process was conducted according to the specifications agreed upon last time. Now, they have achieved certain results in this process. The head of the Human Resources Department paused, as if what followed was the key point. Chapter 187 Major Progress in the Medical Department. At this moment, the head of the Human Resources Department was still passionately reporting on the department's situation. In the 2 latest training camps, every special volunteer has undergone various training programs according to the preset plans. In the initial tests, they all passed the final tests with excellent results. The head of the Human Resources Department patted his chest, speaking with great excitement and confidence. His eyes alone revealed his affirmation and recognition of the camp's achievements. Of course, now, with a combined effect of that auxiliary divine authority law and the newly invented super-powerful enhancer, their physique will be further improved. I believe they will soon reach an unprecedented level. Of course, among the special volunteers recruited before the new year, the mecha department has made the fastest progress. It turned out that not all special resource users recruited earlier were assigned to various training camps. Some of those with better aptitude were selected for special training in the manufacturing department. This arrangement was based on Fang Heng's initial plan. Because if the underwater trench in the future were to emit anomalies, it could potentially attract creatures from another world to Earth. Then, the mecha squad will become the latest fighting force. Of course, the special volunteers who join the mecha squad have to undertake far more tasks than ordinary volunteers. They not only have to complete basic physical training, but also further understand and become familiar with the mechas. Their learning ability is extremely rapid. Alright, that's the general situation of our department now. I'll leave it to you. Feeling that it was enough, and having clearly explained the relevant situation of the personnel department, the head of personnel silently summarized. Then he sat down. There were only 2 people sitting next to the head of personnel. To his left was Fang Heng, and to his right was the head of the medical department. As for Fang Heng, he was merely the proposer of the plan. He didn't manage any department. So it was obvious that, if they were to take turns, it would be the head of the medical department's turn to give his presentation next. Ahem, the head of the medical department gave his sister-in-law a light kiss, then smiled broadly at everyone and said, "Hello everyone, I'm the head of the medical department. I don't think I need to introduce myself much, do I? Now, let me talk about the latest developments in the medical department from a few aspects. Since the expansion of the 2 hospitals last time, they can now basically accommodate all the patients in the region. They've all registered and are receiving the latest treatments. Of course, if further treatment is needed, we might have to wait for the special medicine that Commander Fang mentioned." The head of the medical department briefly explained some of the latest news from the department, then chuckled and said, "As for the more specific situation of our department, you probably can all sense it without me saying it, especially recently. The medical department has been very active. At this point, The head of the medical department seemed to remember something. He paused slightly, then continued. As for the newly developed super strength enhancer, it has already been promoted in the camp. The head of HR and I went to check on it last time. And the overall results are very satisfactory. Of course, the medical department's production line is fully operational, and this enhancer will soon be available throughout the entire camp. The head of the medical department patted his chest, speaking with both caution and pride. Of course, if we need to implement it across the entire region, that's also possible. Our technicians are already very familiar with the entire production process. After the heads of HR and medical departments explained the relevant situations of their respective departments, the heads of the remaining departments also summarized their respective departments. After listening to a round of discussions, Fang Heng felt very satisfied. It could be said that the overall results achieved by each department completely met his initial expectations. In fact, it could be said that they even exceeded his initial goals. Fang Hao, beaming, said, very good, your performance was excellent. The overall result has completely exceeded our initial expectations. You've all worked hard to exceed our targets. Fang Heng nodded slightly, acknowledging and affirming their past efforts. Thank you for your praise, Commander Fang. It's all thanks to the effectiveness of your plan. Your guidance allowed us to complete it so quickly. Of course, we also owe a great deal to the technical support from Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company. Their technicians provided us with a lot of assistance throughout the process. This was a point acknowledged by all departments. While the Medical Department and Human Resources Department seemed to receive the most support from Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company, other departments also received significant support. However, many details could not be disclosed at this time. Just then, the head of the Derivatives Department seemed unable to contain his excitement any longer. He spoke with a determined air. Fang Heng, now that we've achieved such good results at this stage, what should we do next? A chorus of voices erupted. The HR manager's question echoed the sentiments of all the managers present. This was precisely why they were holding this top-level meeting. The current phase was essentially complete, and they needed to know the next phase's tasks as soon as possible. Although they were department heads, it didn't mean they had a deep understanding of the SORN plan. After all, Fang Heng was the one who proposed it. Furthermore, the last top-level meeting had only discussed it thoroughly, without even considering the second phase. That's why they were holding this second top-level meeting today. Yes, Commander Fang, just tell us what we should do next. Don't worry, whatever task Commander Fang assigns, we'll handle it flawlessly. Chapter 188 Starting with a Mech Squad. Fang Heng, after testing at several camps, we've discovered that the super enhancing machine is indeed incredibly powerful. So, what do you think? The head of the medical department looked meaningfully at Fang Heng, then began to speak slightly. Fang Heng, do you think we should start considering putting the super enhancing machine into mass production? Please rest assured, Commander Fang, our medical department already possesses all the necessary production lines and equipment. In other words, we are fully capable of mass producing this enhancement machine. After saying this, the head of the medical department remained silent, but his eyes remained fixed on Fang Heng, never moving. No. After hearing the head of the medical department's words, Fang Heng quickly shook his head and then said, this isn't possible yet. This machine hasn't officially reached the point of mass production. Upon hearing Fang Heng's words, all the heads present were stunned. They looked at Fang Heng with extremely surprised eyes. The recent efficacy and effects of the super enhancing agent are undeniable, even revitalizing the entire medical department. Therefore, when the head of the medical department proposed mass production of the super enhancing agent, they were 100% in favor. But now, why is Commander Fang suddenly saying it's not possible yet, not up to standard? Why is that? The head of the personnel department's mind raced, seemingly realizing something. Commander Fang is right, this is indeed something we can't handle. Indeed, we can see a very good effect from the super enhancing agent now, and theoretically, it can be widely promoted, but, he paused, taking a deep breath and organizing his thoughts before speaking. Under extraordinary circumstances, it's the latest invention from Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company in the past few months, and its overall technological level is already at the highest level on Blue Star. In fact, when the head of the personnel department mentioned this, many of the department heads present had already roughly guessed what he was about to say. For high-tech products like this, if we want to fully promote them, we need to consider many things, such as how to prevent piracy and how to support new technological updates. These are all issues that we need to discuss, rather than blindly pushing a new product onto the production line. After saying this, the head of the HR department, Fang Heng, gave him an inquiring look. His meaning was clear. He wanted to see if Fang Heng's thoughts aligned with his own. Sensing the HR head's gaze, Fang Heng understood what he meant. He picked up the teacup on the table and took a small sip. After finishing the tea, he carefully placed the teacup back on the table. Then, he slowly began to speak. Actually, what the HR manager just said is only one aspect. After all, this is new technology, and we must be prepared for all sorts of problems that may arise after mass production. Only one aspect? Are there other aspects? Fang Heng, what exactly do you mean by that? Is there something we haven't considered clearly enough? If so, you can tell us directly. After all, we're in a meeting. At this moment, all eyes were focused on Fang Heng, and everyone was eagerly anticipating what he would say next. What I just said was really just a small step. Of course, I can completely understand what the head of the medical department said. The enhancer has indeed reached a mass production standard, I'm very certain of that, but the next stage isn't about promoting mass production, or rather, it's not suitable. Fang Heng frowned, then continued, we've entered the second stage of the SORN plan. In this second stage, we'll have new tasks, and these tasks are quite urgent. Hiss. Hearing Fang Heng say this, everyone present gasped, then instantly perked up. Their eyes lit up. Even their heartbeats quickened. It was all involuntary, they couldn't control themselves. So, Fang Heng, what are our main tasks now that we've entered the second stage? You should have brought this up in this meeting. If you don't, it'll be difficult for the various departments to coordinate later. After hearing that, the head of the Human Resources Department became very serious. After all, he loved hearing about new tasks, and now with new business, he was brimming with energy. Fang Heng scanned the room and said, I believe everyone here has a habit of watching the news, right? Oh, yes, of course we watch the news. Even if we don't watch the news regularly, we still make time to get the latest news. It's an essential quality for a qualified CEO. Your habit is truly excellent. Fang Heng couldn't help but give a mental thumbs up to the CEOs present. Their behavior was certainly commendable. Since everyone pays attention to the news, I believe you've all noticed that the news trend has changed in the last 2 months. Previously, the news covered all sorts of things, but in the last 2 months, it's almost entirely focused on certain natural disasters. Why is that? Why has there been such a sudden change? Fang Heng paused for a few seconds before answering. Although those outside may not know about the underwater trenches, everyone here should understand what they truly signify. The frequent natural disasters of the past 2 months are closely related to the unusual activity of these underwater trenches. Fang Heng spoke with a profound gaze, and as the underwater trenches intensify, our tasks become more numerous, and time becomes even more pressing. Therefore, we must readjust our previous strategy. This time, we should begin with a mech squad. Chapter 189. Time is tight, the task is heavy. What? Training for the mecha squad is starting so soon? Didn't we say this mission was in the third phase? Because only in the third phase would we actually use this stuff. The head of HR was quite surprised after hearing Fang Heng's words. It wasn't surprising, because Fang Heng had indeed told him before that the mecha squad was a key research and development goal for the third phase. He had even memorized those words when Fang Heng said them, because, in his mind, ever since Fang Heng was elected chairman at the last meeting, he had basically accepted every word Fang Heng said. Therefore, he had carefully recorded every word Fang Heng had said, which is why he was so clear about it now. Yes, Fang Heng, this is only the first phase, it just ended, and the second phase hasn't even started yet. Are we going to start the second round of testing so soon? Conducting airborne testing in the second round would be too costly, and it's not what we originally planned. Most importantly, many devices aren't currently supported, and our technical staff haven't reached that stage regarding asset research. The head of the technical department lowered his head slightly, somewhat ashamed, and said, actually, we've been in contact recently and have been trying to develop in various directions, but we can't meet the manufacturing requirements of your research. The quality is just too high. We've been studying it for several months, but we haven't been able to overcome even one of the difficulties. After saying this, the head of the technical department was too embarrassed to say anything more. He silently lowered his head, not daring to look at those around him. He had originally thought his technical department was developing quite quickly, but he hadn't expected. He never imagined that Fang Heng would propose creating a mecha team at the second top-level meeting. Fang Heng's words were crystal clear to them. Establishing a mecha squad meant fully implementing the assets and achieving complete equipment deployment. After a while, the head of the technical department looked up again, his gaze fixed firmly on Fang Heng. I don't know what you're thinking. When do you want to enter the third phase for the full-scale promotion of the mechas? If not on the near future, then it should be about 2 or 3 weeks. In that time frame, even if the technical department staff works overtime, they can handle it. After hearing the head of the technical department's words, Fang Heng frowned slightly, clearly not expecting the technical department to have this question. Before attending this meeting, Fang Heng had already thought everything through. After all, a new anomaly had appeared in the underwater trench, a situation beyond his control. Moreover, some recent developments had been unexpected, so he had to make more preparations. This was why he was now proposing to enter the preparations for the third phase ahead of schedule. Finally, Fang Heng slightly opened his mouth to look at the head of the key department, and then said, originally, this stage should be started as soon as possible, but of course, if, he paused, clearly hesitant. However, after a moment's thought, he answered verbally, actually, this task shouldn't be too difficult. The main problem is that I hadn't considered the issue you just raised, so I was a bit at a loss when you brought it up. To ease the awkwardness, Fang Heng frankly expressed his feelings. He couldn't help it, although Fang Heng was highly intelligent and could make significant contributions to scientific research and technology, he was still human, and sometimes he had oversights. Then how long do you think the technical department will need to get started? Upon hearing Fang Heng's question, the head of the technical department's eyes lit up. From Fang Heng's words, he could tell that Fang Heng was genuinely considering their department's needs and understood their difficulties. Just 12 days, only 12 days will do, the head of the technical department patted his chest and said with great certainty. Actually, he originally wanted to say it would take 25 days, but considering Fang Heng's understanding and his concern for everyone, he decided to grit his teeth and shorten the time so that the technicians could get started as soon as possible. Don't worry, even if you didn't say it, our technical department knows what the main purpose is right now. We've been following the news closely for the past 2 months, so we know exactly what the situation is like. Time is very precious, especially now that we're managing the system and entering the third phase of research and development. Although he heard the head of the technical department say this, Fang Heng was still very worried. Because at this crucial moment, what he needed was not just a promise, nor just words. He needed concrete and feasible action. Finally, Fang Heng spoke again to confirm, are you sure 12 days is enough? Don't you need a little more time? No, we don't need it, the head of the technical department gritted his teeth and said decisively. His expression showed his unwavering resolve, and his eyes revealed his seriousness about the mission's difficulty and his determination to succeed. I'll ask you one last time, does your self-help department really not need a little more time? No. Just as the head of the technical department was about to say no again, Fang Heng interrupted him once more. This time, Fang Heng looked directly into the eyes of the head of the funding department. You don't need to answer me so quickly. This question involves many things, a very wide range of aspects, so I hope you can think it through carefully before you speak. Moreover, because you are the technical department, other departments will need to build upon your foundation to operate. Once other departments' tasks are assigned, your funding department's schedule cannot be changed. Thump. 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 Upon hearing this, the head of the technical department felt a jolt in his heart. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190. At this moment, all 8 departments are activated. However, the head of the technical department ultimately stated very confidently, Fang Heng, please rest assured, you can continue with the work arrangements for other departments. The funding department will not let you down, nor will it fail to complete its tasks, no matter how many times you ask. This is the technical department's answer. Although our department doesn't have as many rules and regulations as the personnel department, but we in the technical department also have our own backbone and our own principles. As their head, if I say it's okay this time, then it definitely will be okay. The head of the technical department, with a deep gaze and a confident expression, patted his chest and said this. It must be said that seeing him like this, Fang Heng felt a deep appreciation for their abilities. Very good, boss. Your boldness is something I can never match. If I had your courage and boldness earlier, perhaps my current performance would be even better. Fang Heng greatly admired and supported the head of the technical department's performance. Although time is tight right now, and as you just said, you only need 12 days. I know that 12 days is indeed a very difficult task for you, but even with such a difficult task, you are willing to take it on within the scope of one department, and that alone. Fang Heng paused here. Unfortunately, he didn't say anything more. He silently took out his phone from his pocket and handed it to someone else. Hello, Mr. Fang, how can I help you? A very clear voice came from the other end of the line, a voice that sounded very pleasant and comforting. Fang Heng casually asked with concern, Xiao Zhang, where are you now? Thank you for your concern, Mr. Fang. I'm currently in a meeting with my department head at our company. There's been some new progress in the department, so I came over to hear about it. Fang Heng immediately became interested. Oh ho, you've made new progress so quickly? Have you invented something again? It's not really an invention. The specific results will have to be assessed by you when you get back, Mr. Fang. Right now, it's just a preliminary development stage. Oh, by the way, Mr. Fang, is there something you need from me all of a sudden? Or is there a task you need to assign? If you need any help, just say so. Mr. Fang, we won't stand on ceremony. Fang Heng laughed a few times, then said humorously, Xiao Zhang, you really know how to talk. You have a really nice way of speaking. Well, next, you pick out a few people from our company's funding department. Fang Heng said this to his company's manager on the phone and then hung up. His gaze then returned to the assembled executives. Fang Heng then faced the head of the technical department. The technical department's workload is very heavy, but to alleviate your burden, I've just discussed it with the company's management. We'll be drawing technical personnel from the funding department of Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company to coordinate and assist, because they have participated in related asset research. They have considerable experience in this area. I believe with their help, you can get up to speed more quickly. Overjoyed. Hearing Fang Heng say this, the head of the technical department was inwardly delighted. He knew the skill level of the production staff at Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company. Their skills were in no way inferior to those of their technical department. When Fang Heng founded Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company, he conducted numerous rounds of extensive recruitment. Each recruitment was aimed at high-end technical talent across the entire planet, and many top talents responded to his recruitment requests. Now, with such a tight workload, having the help of such experts would significantly reduce the pressure on the technical department to complete the task. Thinking of this, the head of the technical department said gratefully, Thank you, Commander Fang, for your understanding and help to our department. Please rest assured, Commander Fang, our department will work hard to cooperate with your company's technical staff to complete this task. Fang Heng nodded and then fell silent. A moment of silence ensued. Everyone lowered their heads, and after a while, the heads of the other departments finally couldn't hold back any longer. At this moment, they were filled with a million questions. Small heads, big doubts. Fang Heng, do we need to discuss anything else? Is there anything else you want to say? The head of the HR department was the first to break the silence. Fang Heng was somewhat surprised to hear the HR department head's question. What else do I want to say? I don't have anything to say. You really don't have anything to say? You just talked to the branch secretary and the head of the department. Fang Heng was completely bewildered. He really couldn't understand what the HR department head meant by saying this. I really have nothing to say. The tasks have already been assigned to the technical department, and I feel like our meeting is almost over. Oh, no. How could that be? How could that be? It's impossible. No. Fang Heng, think about it again. You only assign tasks and work to the technical department. There are so many other departments here. Don't you have anything you want us to help with? Our department has already made great progress and can move into the second phase, or even the third phase, of testing and business allocation. Seeing Fang Heng's indifference towards their department, the other department heads instantly became anxious. They didn't know if Fang Heng had forgotten or what, or if their departments really had no tasks. But the many department heads present didn't believe there were no tasks. After all, they still had a lot of work to do in the face of the Sorn plan. So if there was anything, there was only one possibility. Perhaps Fang Heng forgot, or perhaps he hadn't yet come up with a better plan. Just then, someone suddenly spoke up. It seems there really is something. Chapter 191 presents an even more important question. There seems to be one more thing, Fang Heng said, his tone becoming somewhat serious. Actually, this was something he had only just thought of. He hadn't considered it in such depth before, and it was the only thing he'd considered now. However, when everyone else present heard that there was something else, their eyes lit up instantly, their minds filled with excitement. Their eager gazes were even more evident. Fang Heng, what are you referring to? Did you suddenly remember something you haven't done yet? I wonder which department you're going to assign this to next? It's not going to the technical department again, is it? Fang Heng, you can't be biased towards the technical department. Our departments can also be very capable. We can help you with many things in the plan. That's right, that's right. Commander Fang, you've already given such an important task to the production department, so shouldn't you assign some things to our departments as well? The heads of the other departments immediately surrounded Fang Heng, chattering incessantly in front of him. This just so happens. Why are you all in such a hurry? Seeing the other department heads so anxious, Fang Heng was quite surprised. To be honest, Fang Heng really didn't expect the other department heads to be so enthusiastic, but it wasn't that they were demanding, it was just that each department had its own role. Because Fang Heng wanted to say something, but he stopped himself mid-sentence. After a while, he said directly, but this user is a relatively small task. Such a small task doesn't need to be handled by your entire department. I can have a few people in my company help with it. I see. After hearing Fang Heng's words, the other department heads also felt very concerned, so they didn't really continue the discussion. However, if there's any major task, you must think of us first, because our department also has excellent personnel. Could you take a look at the overall results of our departmental coordination in this first phase? Of course, if we follow the coordination results of the second phase, each of our departments is confident that we can complete an even larger workload. The head of the medical department was here before continuing. However, due to the special circumstances and the sudden need to jump, we won't cause any trouble for Commander Fang in the third phase. Fang Heng nodded slightly, indicating his agreement and affirmation. Alright, now that our task has reached this stage, let's continue discussing the second issue. Rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. What? The second question isn't the main topic of our meeting to discuss this issue, moving to the third stage as soon as possible. Why is there a second agenda item that no one wants to discuss with us? Everyone present expressed their confusion, as they hadn't heard anything about a second agenda item before coming. What's so strange about that? Fang Heng personally directed this meeting. He decided what topics to discuss, and we're here to attend the meeting, so the more we can discuss, the better. You have to understand that the current situation is quite special, and Fang Heng just mentioned adding a mecha team. With such a big change, naturally, we have more to discuss. Something like the Sorn plan has such a broad scope, we must take it seriously. The executives discussed privately for a while before finally calming down. Actually, they could have held the meeting longer, but what their father had just said had indeed shocked them. Or perhaps they weren't mentally prepared. Alright, since Fang Heng has said we need to discuss the second issue, everyone please go back to your seats. Yes, everyone sit back down first. Let's see what Fang Heng has to say, and then we'll listen. Each department has new tasks, and so, the people in the meeting gathered again. The biggest difference between this meeting and the first one was that there was no difference. Except for the change in time, everything else remained the same. I wonder what the second issue you're referring to is. Commander Fang, if you have any questions, you can raise them first, and then we can all discuss them together here. The head of HR looked at the plan with great interest and then spoke with a slight "Oh, yes, the head of the technical department is right. If there are any problems, we can come out first, and then we can discuss them together and solve new problems together. After all, as the saying goes, many hands make light work, and unity is strength. With so many of us here, I don't believe there's any problem that can stump us." As he spoke, the head of HR's eyes shone with confidence and decisiveness. This was an aura he had cultivated over time. It could be said that his demeanor was something few could imitate. Okay, seeing their enthusiasm, the branch felt even more confident. After all, facing the increasingly unusual situation in the underwater trench, Fang Heng alone would find it difficult to handle, but it was essential to integrate all possible resources to ensure success. We've just discussed this issue with the head of the funding department, and you're going to establish a mecha squad at this stage? Within the mecha squad, all members will be equipped with mechas. This makes mechas a necessity for our technological research and development once again, but this issue has already been well resolved in our discussion just now. Fang Heng said very seriously, I will send a small group of technicians from the mecha department of Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company to assist you. Hearing Fang Heng's line of thought, everyone present nodded in agreement. This line of thought was very clear, and they had almost finished organizing their ideas. The problem now is that although we've solved the technical aspects, there's still an even more important issue that hasn't been resolved. Chapter 192 Where do the mecha resources come from? Have you considered that passing the technical hurdles only proves the intermediate level is passable? Have you thought about the underlying issues? Fang Heng was guiding the executives present step by step to think about the problem. After all, Fang Heng wouldn't always have the time to teach them how to collect food and how to conduct technological research. After listening to Fang Heng's words, they all felt that this was indeed a problem. Although technology is very important, if you only have technology but no other resources, you can't complete scientific research. Just like what Fang Heng said next. Although our current technology can manufacture mechas, but if we want to create a mech squad and equip all members with mechas, it's still a very difficult task. Think about it, this not only places high demands on our technology, but also poses a greater challenge to the coordination of various support aspects. Hiss. After hearing Fang Heng's words, everyone present couldn't help but gasp. That's really true. Without raw materials, how can we produce anything? No matter how advanced your technology is, you can't produce anything. At this point, we suddenly realized why Fang Heng had kept them up to discuss the second issue. If the second issue couldn't be resolved, then the first issue was just wishful thinking. Fang Heng spoke again. What are your thoughts on resources, bosses? After all, you are more familiar with this than I am, and you have more experience, so now I can only humbly learn from you. I hope you won't hesitate to offer your advice. Fang Heng's relationship with the bosses present had become very good, so they could speak freely. At this point in the discussion, the bosses were speechless. They simply couldn't think of a better way to handle the situation. This is indeed quite difficult. Although we have abundant resources here, and many materials are available, but, if I remember correctly, to create nails, we need to use many rare materials, and also many special things. The head of the resources department frowned immediately. He had been compiling statistics for quite some time and was very familiar with the quantity of resources, but it was really difficult to mass-produce those rare materials. These mean they are very difficult to find, and it's impossible for you to develop them here in such a short time. Moreover, the materials we supplied to Kiel's last time are now in short supply, so, at this moment, the head of the resources department was very troubled. He had just told Fang Heng that he could just give him any questions or tasks. But now he couldn't solve the first problem Fang Heng raised, so he felt somewhat embarrassed. It seems our resources are still very scarce, but what should we do now? Actually, if we only want to produce one mech or just a nail-shaped object, our rare resources are more than enough. But we're discussing large-scale production now. The head of the equipment department, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke up. Moreover, certain special materials have very wide applications. We can't use them all for creating mechas. We have many other equipment that also need them. The head of the finance department also chimed in. That's right, we can't put all our eggs in one basket on one project. While implementation is important, we can't allow this project to cripple other projects. But if the head of the medical department, standing nearby, became very anxious. If we don't have enough fingernails, how will we deal with the anomalies in the underwater trench? No one can say when a bigger anomaly might occur there, and no one dares to say when that alien creature will break through the underwater trench and reach Earth. But even so, we can't. That's too risky. If we're not careful, it's very possible. For a moment, the executives sat there, discussing the matter animatedly. The atmosphere was incredibly intense. They were now gradually relying on Fang Heng as their leader. In fact, everything Fang Heng said, or his methods, had been verified by real events. It was precisely because of all these experiences that their trust in Fang Heng had reached an immeasurable level. Although the madman sitting before them was only 18 years old, and hadn't even graduated high school yet, this didn't prevent Fang Heng from being the only one among them to have made exceptional contributions to scientific research. His outstanding achievements in this area alone far surpassed many of his peers. Seeing the executives discussing such a heated debate, he couldn't help but laugh. PFFT, PFFT, the sound of this peacekeeping abruptly stopped the executives' discussion. This. Fang Heng, what are you laughing at? Is it that funny? We're discussing serious matters. I'm not. Why are you laughing so loudly? Fang Heng shook his head, quickly denying it. No, I wasn't laughing, I wasn't. PFFT, ha. Although he said that, Fang Heng couldn't help but burst into laughter. This completely stunned the executives present. They had been discussing the issue so seriously, and now he was laughing. Fang Heng, please be serious, everyone is discussing the problem you just raised. It's one thing if you don't help think about it, but how can you laugh here? The head of HR said to Fang Heng, pretending to be serious. He thought to himself, this kid Fang Heng is so disrespectful. Chapter 193 The resources on Earth are plentiful. At this moment, Fang Heng paused, then continued, please don't mind, I really just couldn't help myself, he said. It wasn't what you meant, it was just an uncontrollable impulse. Please understand, Fang Heng looked sincerely at all the CEOs present. He couldn't help it, he genuinely couldn't hold back. But after a while, Fang Heng finally composed himself. He said softly, actually, you didn't have to discuss it so intensely, did you? But Fang Heng had only just begun to speak when he was interrupted by the other CEOs. What do you mean not serious? You yourself are the one who proposed this Sorn plan. Don't you understand the current situation? Don't tell us you don't know anything. What time is it now? How can you still be laughing? Besides, you just said that the situation is quite special and we need to move into the third phase of preparation as soon as possible, which is why all our departments are so tense. Upon hearing Fang Heng's words, the head of the HR department couldn't help but speak up. Boss, please don't get so agitated. Why are you talking like that? Fang Heng, unaware of the situation, continued, I haven't finished speaking yet. Can you wait for me to finish? After I finish speaking, you'll understand what I mean, and you probably won't be so agitated. Then tell me, I want to see what you can say. You brat, you were the one who said the situation was tense before, and now you're the one saying there's no need to be nervous or to provide funding. What exactly are you trying to do? The head of the HR department was completely baffled by Fang Heng's actions. However, Fang Heng didn't argue with him at this moment. A slight smile appeared on his face, and he spoke very casually. That's right, the situation is indeed quite tense, and more complicated than we anticipated, but that doesn't mean we should be even more nervous. After all, our Soren plan was launched a long time ago, so we still have enough resources and plans to prepare. Hearing this, everyone present immediately perked up. From this sentence, it was clear that Fang Heng was confident. Fang Heng, does that mean you've already thought of a better solution? Is that even a question? Fang Heng, who is he? Everyone has witnessed his abilities, so we don't need to repeat them, right? Compared to whether he's come up with a better solution, I'm more concerned about what specific solution he's come up with. After all, the biggest problem now isn't technology, but resources, and resources can't be compensated for by brainpower. Several department heads were seriously analyzing Fang Heng's words. Clearly, they all believed that Fang Heng already had a solution. However, they still subconsciously wanted to guess what specific solution Fang Heng had given them. Could it really solve the resource shortage problem in such an urgent situation? Just then, Fang Heng meaningfully pushed the school aside. Actually, the situation is very tense right now, but it's also because we knew about the anomaly of the underwater trench in advance. It's also because we knew in advance that there might be something in the world on the other side of the underwater trench, and they are constantly surveying the situation of the underwater trench. The heads of the medical department and the human resources department nodded in agreement. They both felt that Fang Heng's analysis made a lot of sense. Yes, that's right. That's how it is. Why did you suddenly stop talking? Continue. We've only received one. Why did you suddenly stop talking? Just as the heads of the medical department and the human resources department were feeling very strange, just as they were listening intently, they suddenly realized that Fang Heng hadn't continued. The two who weren't present were stunned. They really hadn't expected Fang Heng to suddenly stop talking. What's going on here? How did things suddenly turn out like this? Just as the head of the HR department was about to speak, looking a little annoyed at the head of the medical department, Fang Heng spoke again. His voice wasn't loud, but it was just enough to fill the entire conference room. Actually, solving this problem isn't difficult at all. We just need to broaden our thinking, although some things we don't have here, other places do. The entire planet is so big, it possesses far too many resources. At this point, the head of the resources department couldn't help but step forward and retort, "That's utter nonsense, utter rubbish. Although there are many resources on Earth, and many other places have resources too, those don't actually belong to us, and we can't make any real use of them, so what you just said is actually meaningless and of no benefit." "Stop, stop, stop," Fang Heng waved his hand, and then, unperturbed, he said, "Although those resources aren't ours, we can find a way to make them ours." A sudden realization. How? How can we turn their resources into ours? How can this be achieved? Hearing Fang Heng's words, the heads of the other departments instantly perked up. They couldn't help it, they always had a certain yearning and longing for some ingenious ideas. So, Fang Heng's point immediately captivated them, and they were certain that what he would propose next would be something they had never considered before. Isn't that simple? If you want support, just buy it. Isn't that a simple way of thinking? You shouldn't need to think about that. Like when you don't have something, your first thought is usually where to buy it, right? Seeing their expressions, Fang Heng was genuinely shocked. He truly didn't know if they were truly ignorant or pretending, genuinely unaware or feigning ignorance. So, when you lack resources, your first thought is to create them yourself. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Chapter 194. Fang Heng comes up with a series of brilliant moves, and everyone admires him. Hiss. After hearing what Teacher Fang said, everyone present couldn't help but gasp. To be honest, they hadn't expected what Fang Heng had just said. Although in their daily lives, if they didn't receive support, their first reaction would be to buy resources. But in that specific situation, it was really difficult for them to think in that direction. So, they hadn't considered the point Fang Heng mentioned at all. If they had thought about it a little more carefully, they might have been able to figure it out, but they were too excited just now, and support was indeed very difficult to find. Good, all the executives present couldn't help but shout good, in approval. In that instant, thunderous applause suddenly rang out, the sound seemingly capable of creating an overwhelming force. "That's a really good idea. Why didn't we think of that before? If that's the case, then the resources for the male staff are more than sufficient. It's entirely possible that we can equip the entire mecha team with mechas." The head of the technical department, who was already troubled by limited resources, was instantly filled with excitement after hearing Fang Heng's words. If this were the case, he wouldn't be affected by any other circumstances. However, he overlooked another problem. This was the issue the head of the finance department was about to raise. The finance department head frowned, clearly worried, and said, "This method is good, everyone agrees on that, but there's another problem. If we buy resources, everything will cost money. Let's not even talk about whether our current spare funds can support the upcoming scientific research." Slowly, the finance department had brought out the most crucial point. His next words expressed the sentiments of most of the department heads present, revealing their true feelings. "But under the current circumstances, if we were to acquire them, the price might be very high. Besides, we're conducting ideological research, which requires a huge amount of resources. If we keep acquiring them, then I'm afraid." The head of the finance department hesitated slightly, but ultimately decided to speak. "If they know we absolutely need these resources, they might really raise the price, causing us to suffer significant losses." A chorus of voices erupted. "That seems to be true. If they've got us cornered, they'll definitely raise the price, and if we buy then, it might be extremely expensive." "No way. That would be too much of a loss." "Indeed, but if we look at it that way, this method isn't very reliable." At this point in the discussion, Fang Heng spoke up again. He was genuinely worried that if he didn't speak up, they might wander off somewhere else entirely. Raising prices on the spot, do they really dare to do that? Or rather, will they really do it? Fang Heng smiled slyly, looking at everyone present before continuing. "Actually, this isn't a problem at all. Here's the deal, no matter where they are, we'll say the same thing. No matter how high they charge, we'll sell," Fang Heng said confidently. To sum it up in one sentence, no matter how much they sell for, we'll buy it all, as long as they have the resources. The heads of the finance and resources departments present were immediately taken aback after hearing the proposal. They really couldn't understand what Fang Heng meant. Because if they really followed Fang Heng's suggestion, they might lose a lot of money. But Fang Heng used to be very clever. Why was he suddenly so inconsiderate this time? In fact, not only the heads of the finance and resources departments, but all the other department heads present were also very puzzled. This was completely unlike Fang Heng's style. He used to be incredibly clever, always considering things thoroughly and executing them flawlessly. But now, why was he suddenly thinking so simply? However, he quickly realized that what he was about to say not only resolved their doubts but also drew their immediate and enthusiastic approval. Fang Heng took a sip of tea and confidently stated, "Yes, that's right. As long as they have the resources and are willing to sell, we'll buy them. For now, we won't care if they're trying to raise prices. This way, we can not only meet our normal research and development needs but also increase our resource reserves, then we'll accumulate all the remaining resources we acquire." As he said this, Fang Heng's eyes gleamed. At this moment, Fang Heng's plans had reached a very, very far-reaching conclusion. It's no wonder that the heads of the various departments present hadn't grasped his train of thought and couldn't understand his current confidence. While Earth is indeed rich in resources, very few regions are capable of exporting special or rare resources. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called special resources and oil resources. Therefore, acquiring even a large quantity of these two types of resources is a guaranteed profit. Fang Heng's current idea is to accumulate resources, not just ordinary resources, but massive amounts. It would be ideal to have a large warehouse for these resources. Let's do it this way. We'll accumulate all the excess resources, PFFT. PFFT, hearing this, everyone present instantly understood. They all looked at Fang Heng with disbelief, but their hearts were already in turmoil. Only now could they truly understand Fang Heng's thoughts and feelings. Amazing. Is this the Fang Heng people talk about? This is too powerful. He's already thought so far ahead about a solution to such a simple problem. Chapter 195, A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After listening to Fang Heng's words, everyone present felt incredibly serious, because for a moment, they also felt that this plan was absolutely correct. Resources like those on Blue Star, whether rare or common, are likely limited. Once accumulated, they can possess them, and then they'll have less to sell. When the gate to the medical world opens, when they need the resources, they won't have them anymore, while we'll always have them to use. In that case, their situation will be more urgent than ours is now. We can then sell them for whatever price we want, or even not sell them at all. Hearing the executive's thorough analysis, everyone present couldn't help but gasp. They hadn't expected such a positive turn of events, because initially they only thought others would try to rip them off when buying resources. But they never imagined that this was just a short-sighted plan. Think about it, even if they try to rip us off when we acquire resources now, there's a limit to how much they can raise prices, because the current situation is relatively calm, but if we wait until the gate to another world opens, the situation will become extremely volatile. In such an urgent situation, they desperately need resources. Having said all that, no one present needed further guidance. They could already guess what would happen next. Because they desperately need resources, and in such an urgent situation, do you think they can still remain so calm and composed when negotiating with us? That's impossible. If it really comes to that, we can make back the money we've lost no matter what. So this is called playing the long game. At this moment, everyone present felt terrified by Fang Heng's thoughts and feelings. They looked at Fang Heng with utter incomprehension. There was nothing they could do. From the very beginning until now, in every meeting, Fang Heng's words and actions have brought them countless shocks. You know what? Now I'm actually looking forward to that day. Then we'll not only have massive resources, but also ample funds. This will give us a much stronger foundation when preparing for the Sorn Plan. Now, the executives present finally understood why the plan was called the Sorn Plan. Although its initial stages were somewhat difficult, once it got off to a stable start, they could steadily climb the ladder of success. At this moment, the eyes of the resource department head were practically shining. Their faces beamed with smiles. The resource department head chuckled and said, Fang Heng, your move is truly brilliant. When the special gate opens, under such circumstances, these equipment resources will definitely become extremely sought after. No matter what, they will need even more of these resources. At this moment, Fang Heng looked meaningfully at the people present, appreciating the high intelligence of everyone around him. Fang Heng now needs a large amount of resources to develop and equip mechas for the third phase of security. Once the special gate opens, others will also need defensive equipment, so they also crave mechas. The prerequisite for owning mechas is having resources, because only with resources can one even talk about technology. I didn't expect you to grasp it so quickly after I only said a little bit. I wasn't convincing enough. How did you see through me so fast? I thought I'd have to explain it to you before you understood the underlying principles, but I didn't expect you to have such a sudden realization in just a short while. To be honest, Fang Heng was genuinely surprised. He hadn't expected this outcome. He had prepared to explain the reasons thoroughly to the executives present. After all, Fang Heng's proposal to acquire resources regardless of the offer was indeed a huge waste of funds. If he couldn't provide a suitable reason, he believed many department heads wouldn't agree to his approach. But what Fang Heng never expected was that before he could even speak, before he could even explain the problem, the executives present had already filled in the blanks in their minds. Oh dear, how can you talk like that? We don't like hearing you say that. Exactly. You should say something nicer. Besides, you've already made it so obvious, it's no wonder we understand. Besides, we've known each other for so many years, we already understand each other perfectly. Why are you still worrying about these details? What? Hearing the executives say this, Fang Heng's eyes widened in surprise. They've known each other for so many years? Fang Heng, and the HR executives hadn't even known each other for a year. How could the HR executives say they'd known each other for so many years? HR executives, have we really known each other for that long? Did I forget what I said before? Fang Heng. Feigning an innocent expression, he then earnestly inquired of the HR manager. The HR manager hadn't expected Fang Heng to take that statement so seriously, even using it as a counter-argument, leaving him momentarily at a loss. He awkwardly scratched the back of his head and said sheepishly, "It was just a little exaggeration. Don't be so formal. Besides, even elementary school students know this rhetoric. Surely you understand? I think you should. After all, you're a big shot in the research world. You're Fang the Great." The HR manager didn't care what others thought, he just kept exaggerating. After all, they were just a few old friends together, so they could talk as they pleased. Chapter 196, A Joint Effort to Raise Prices. And so it went. After watching the top-level meeting, the heads of various departments went back and began to plan the next steps. Soon they announced to the outside world that they would be openly collecting various resources. These resources spread instantly everywhere, and the news instantly became a hot topic in major media outlets. It even caused a stir on many entertainment forums for a long time. At this moment, traders in other regions also received the news. Some of the larger ones had already started their own meetings to discuss and decide on related matters. At the Miguel Resource Management Office, a large, bearded man with a full face of hair was sitting there. He was listening to his subordinate's report. "Sir, the latest news is that Fang and the other side want to acquire a large number of resources, including both common and rare resources." His subordinate was responsible for collecting and reporting various news to him, so the man was hearing the latest news. After hearing his subordinate's report, the people present instantly became uneasy. Because when they heard this news, they vaguely felt that something was wrong. There was a palpable sense of pressure emanating from somewhere. "Sir, why are they suddenly so eager to acquire so many resources? Our intelligence reports that they possess just as many resources as we do, so why are they suddenly launching this massive acquisition spree?" Those sitting in front of the bearded man were instantly baffled. Could it be that they have some new scheme? A new scheme? That doesn't seem likely, but it's very possible they were about to make a big move. Think about it, if it were just ordinary resources, or an ordinary operation, would they need so many? If it were just a routine activity, their local resources would be more than enough. They wouldn't need to announce this and make such a large-scale acquisition. Some of the more astute secretaries began to discuss amongst themselves, all concluding that Fang Heng was definitely about to make a major move. However, just as their discussion was reaching its climax, another voice suddenly interrupted them, silencing them instantly. Yes, it was this person. "Fuck, that's enough. You're all talking about this stuff all day long. It's pointless. They just want to acquire more resources. What's the big deal? Maybe they just want to build a few more planes. Think about it, the manufacturing process requires a lot of resources, and those resources aren't necessarily enough." His subordinates were stunned for a moment after hearing this. They looked at each other, bewildered. But quickly, someone changed their tune. That's right, sir. There's no big move, no new move. They probably just want to build a couple more planes. We don't need to think so much. Yes, that's right. Sir, you're so wise and insightful. We were short-sighted just now, so we shouldn't sell to them anymore. Then some new subordinates raised a new question, a question that echoed the sentiments of everyone present. Because many people were concerned about one thing: should they sell these resources? If it were just ordinary resources, that would be fine, since there are plenty of ordinary resources. But they looked at the orders Fang Heng had acquired and found that they included a great many rare resources. At this time, every rare resource was considered a treasure and subject to certain controls everywhere. That's why they were so hesitant. Soon, the bearded man spoke again. Of course we have to sell, why wouldn't we? When you open a business, you have to talk business when someone comes, but as for how to talk, what the specific prices, we need to discuss that carefully. We absolutely can't let him think it's too easy, otherwise, they'll think we're easy to bully. At this moment, the man's secretary suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He seemed to have thought of a great idea. He stepped forward slightly and spoke with a very ingratiating look and tone. Hello sir, what you just said about doing business has inspired me. I've come up with a great idea. I wonder if you'd like to hear it. Hearing the other man's flattering tone, the bearded man instantly became interested. He spoke softly. All right, since you have a new idea, share it with everyone and see if it's feasible. If it is, everyone will definitely reward you for your contribution. Thank you. The secretary was overjoyed upon hearing the bearded man's confident words. Sir, I've already reviewed Fang Heng's order. Their required quantity is enormous. Currently, only we in another region can provide such a large quantity of resources. Our two regions can basically fully meet Fang Heng's order needs. So, from a business perspective, could we discuss with a person in charge of the other region raising prices together? If both sides raise prices simultaneously, and Fang Heng needs such a large quantity of resources, he'll have no choice but to buy from us. No matter how high the price we offer, they'll have to accept it, right? Damn. Upon hearing this, the bearded man instantly lost his composure. His eyes gleamed. It seemed he could already sense the arrival of a business opportunity. If what his secretary said is true, then their method is definitely worth trying. Very good, secretary, your method is indeed feasible. Then, quickly go to the next area and contact his manager so we can agree on a price. Sir, you're very decisive. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197. Is Fang Heng about to make another big move? After news of Fang Heng's large-scale acquisition of various resources spread, prices in every region increased dramatically. They probably anticipated Fang Heng's intention to buy resources from them, so they were determined to sell at high prices. Of course, this was entirely within Fang Heng's expectations. Their actions were perfectly aligned with the various scenarios discussed in his previous meetings. Therefore, the branch's acquisition team remained calm and composed, accepting any offer regardless of the price. They knew that while this deal might seem like a loss in the short term, they were fully capable of recouping their losses in the long run. As a result, Fang Heng quickly acquired a large amount of resources from other regions. Faced with this move by the branch, the resource owners outside were completely stunned. Why are they so decisive? We've already increased the price more than 20 times. Why are they? Their behavior is too strange. Not only did they not negotiate with us, but no matter how high we raised the price, they bought it all at once. This one sentence truly expressed the common sentiment of many outsiders. Although they were happy that Fang Heng had made money, they were also worried about his strange actions. Because they really couldn't understand what Fang Heng was up to. What do you think Fang Heng and his group are up to? Are they really that desperate for resources? Even if they were desperate, they wouldn't do this. Think about it. The man paused, took a breath, and continued. Think about it. The price is already more than 20 times higher, completely exceeding the original value of the resources. But what about Fang Heng's side? He's still buying up our resources, and I heard he's not just buying from us, but from all the resource owners on the entire planet. If we just think about it, Fang Heng's behavior is really strange. Is he up to something big again? Hiss, what big thing is he up to again? Upon hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but gasp. They were all too sensitive to that word. The last big thing Fang Heng created was a mecha. A mecha completely surpassed the technological level of the entire planet. But your explanation might not be correct, right? Think about it, the thing they built last time was a mecha. A mecha, that's huge, isn't it? But when they built the thing, they didn't buy a lot of resources from outside, so your explanation just now doesn't make any sense. He had only said half of what he wanted to say when he was interrupted by the person next to him. The person next to him looked at him with a look of utter disappointment. It seems you really don't understand Fang Heng at all. His personality isn't like that. His personality is definitely not that simple. Last time when they made the nails, they didn't buy a lot of resources, maybe because they had enough, but after so many scientific studies, the resources they have must be very limited, so if we continue the research according to this explanation, their large-scale acquisition of resources this time can be explained. Listening to his subordinates' heated discussion, the leader of Team Mara couldn't help but frown on the spot. To be honest, at this moment, he was also undecided. Fang Heng's actions were utterly baffling, like a fog of war. It left everyone completely confused about his intentions. But there's another problem. This is already more than 20 times the original number of soldiers. It's already a huge loss, so why is he still insisting on buying? The R leader said with a heavy heart, and I just heard from my secretary that every time they make a purchase, they never ask us about the price for the next order, they just state the resources we've provided. Their style gives us the feeling they'll buy as many resources as we have, and the price we offer is irrelevant to them. At this point, the R leader's hands trembled slightly. He had heard of Fang Heng's reputation long ago. He knew Fang Heng was no ordinary person, and his actions were far from trivial. The current commotion likely indicated even bigger moves were coming. For the moment, they couldn't understand the branch's intentions, so they dared not act rashly. Chief, in my opinion, we don't need to worry so much, nor do we need to think so much. At this moment, Chief R's secretary quietly stepped forward and whispered a few words in her ear. Actually, no matter what big moves Fang Heng makes next, it won't have a significant impact on us. Chief, think about it, we've already increased the price by 20 times, but they still accept it without hesitation. So last time we can directly increase the price by 50 times, or even 100 times. Then, as long as we have the money, what we want to do next is simple, isn't it? Even if the branch makes any big moves, it's only in scientific research and won't pose a significant threat to us. At this moment, the secretary spoke smugly. Even if we create new mechas for him, so what? We can just buy them when we have the money. This way, we save manpower and resources to support research and development, and we still have the resources here, while the branch definitely needs them. So we're still holding him back. So, do you think this idea is right? I think it's sound. Hearing the secretary's words, the leader nodded with great satisfaction. That's right, you're absolutely right. Under these circumstances, we shouldn't worry at all. On the contrary, we should be happy. Ha ha ha. Chapter 198. Go wash up and go to sleep. You can have anything in your dreams. Because Fang Heng was acquiring all kinds of resources, and outsiders wanted to make a killing, they raised prices and sold their resources to Fang Heng without hesitation. This is why the branch was able to acquire so many resources in just a few days. These resources were immediately distributed to various factories. Each factory managed its own production line. That's right. These factories produced the components related to mecha. Now that we've entered the third phase of the Sorn plan, Fang Heng's goal is to fully commercialize and market mecha. Therefore, factory production and assembly line production of mecha parts is a necessary prerequisite. Of course, this only applies to ordinary parts, which can be supplied to reputable factories. These factories have undergone rigorous review and testing before being selected. Even the workers there have records. After all, not everyone can directly access the mecha production site. Even if we want to commercialize and mass-produce mecha, we need to protect the intellectual property rights related to mecha. Of course, production related to the core technology of mechas wouldn't be outsourced. Currently, the only production teams with access to the core manufacturing technology are the team under the head of the research department and the manufacturing team at Longtang Machinery Manufacturing Company. A certain factory, producing exoskeleton armor, has been shut down for several days. It's not a shortage of personnel, but rather a lack of materials and resources. Sigh, it's been shut down for so many days now, when will it finally reopen? A young man sitting nearby said with some worry. He wanted to earn some money while he was young to go back to doing laundry. Although education is important these days, and he didn't have a high level of education, he earned his money honestly with his own hands. That's hard to say. Our factory has always been the most efficient, and we have a lot of resources, but, a senior employee said thoughtfully, maybe it's because our efficiency is so high that the resources we accumulated were used up all at once. But isn't Master Fang currently buying up resources in large quantities? Why haven't we received any? The senior employee shook his head. We don't know about that. Think about it, we're not Master Fang. How can we guess what he's planning? But we only need to know one thing, whatever Master Fang wants to do, he can definitely accomplish. The reason he hasn't allocated resources to us might be, maybe it's because we have a more important task coming up, or perhaps we have some special manufacturing needs to be assigned to us. Hiss. After hearing the senior employee's explanation, the surrounding employees couldn't help but gasp. At this moment, their pupils dilated, their eyes filled with burning desire. Of course, there was also a hint of surprise. So you mean, does that mean all the employees in our factory have been selected? You mean we'll become Fang Heng's right-hand men? The surrounding employees became more and more excited, their words flowing freely. This left the older employee completely bewildered. Actually, his earlier statement was just a wild guess, without any basis. Just now, actually, what I said just now was just random talk. Just listen to it, don't believe it, we workers should just work honestly. As long as the boss assigns a task, we can complete it on time. As for other things, they're not our concern. Of course, we can discuss them here, but, as you've seen, no matter what, the older employee shrugged and said helplessly, no matter how well we discuss it, the final result isn't up to us. When our factory can start operating isn't up to us either. That makes sense, but we still think what you said makes more sense. Our factory has always performed exceptionally well. Maybe Mr. Fang will take a liking to our factory. If we can get Mr. Fang's personal praise, then, just as the employees were in their spacious room, the sound of a car suddenly came from afar. The car was very loud. It quickly stopped in front of them. Who are they? How could they just drive their car in? Are the security guards outside gone? The factory has a rule that outsiders aren't allowed near, even if we don't mention that the factory is producing mecha parts now. Even before, you couldn't just come and go as you pleased. While everyone present was in a state of great confusion, they suddenly noticed that their factory manager had also come out in person. Damn, look, who's that? Someone on the scene shouted loudly. Because they saw a very familiar figure in their eyes. That figure was the person they had just been discussing. Fang Heng, the great god Fang. It's truly as if you can summon the devil and he appears. Hiss. Many people on the scene gasped, their eyes filled with reverence and admiration. The smiles on their faces were incredibly bright. Some even went so far as to stand on tiptoe and crane their necks, wanting to see what their idol, the great god Fang, looked like. Damn, I was right. Master Fang really did come here. Ha. Looks like I really am a great prophet, able to predict this. Looks like I'll become one of Master Fang's most powerful people in the future. Hearing this incredibly arrogant person say this, everyone around him gave him unusual looks. Their expressions seemed to say, how? Think about it, just think about it, this kind of thing. Besides, you clearly didn't say this before, and now you're only saying it. Friend, go wash up and go to sleep, anything can happen in dreams. Chapter 199 The Secret Ship Mission. It turned out that Fang Heng was the one who got out of the car. As soon as he stepped out, everyone around him had arrived. It was the first time they had seen Fang Heng at their factory, so they were curious to know what he wanted to say or do to help them clear up their factory's operations. The factory manager, beaming with joy, stepped forward and began, Everyone, please be quiet and let me say a few words. Today, it's Fang Heng, the great Fang Heng, who is here to provide guidance to our factory. We extend our warmest welcome and heartfelt blessings to him. Welcome, Fang Heng, the great Fang Heng. As soon as the manager finished speaking, thunderous applause erupted from below. Everyone was incredibly excited, their eyes shining as they looked at Fang Heng. The crowd cheered and shouted. At that moment, they felt incredibly honored and proud. Ha, I never expected this. I never thought we'd see Master Fang Heng here. Yeah, that bookworm from my village used to laugh at me and look down on me, haha, let's see how he dares to laugh at me now. So what if he's more educated than me? He still can't meet Master Fang, so what if I'm less educated? Now I'm only a foot away from Master Fang. From now on, I can proudly say on the street, I'm a man who has dealt with Master Fang. The factory workers were mostly low educated, so seeing Master Fang's income to their factory filled them with immense joy and excitement. Although they weren't highly educated, they possessed exceptional skills. This was why Fang Heng valued their factory so much. On the surface, Fang Heng's visit was to provide guidance, but his main purpose was to assess them. If they passed Fang Heng's assessment, the branch wouldn't mind entrusting them with more confidential work. At this moment, the factory manager shouted again, now we invite Master Fang to say a few words. Everyone, give him a round of applause, clap your hands. Clap. Master Fang, it's a rare occasion for you to visit our factory, we can't be inconsiderate in this regard, right? Clap clap clap. As soon as he finished speaking, the factory manager took the lead. He clapped his hands very enthusiastically. Alright, hello. Fang Heng took the microphone from his secretary. He tested the sound and then began to speak. Dear employees, dear friends, good afternoon. Thank you very much for standing here to listen to me in this hot summer. As he said this, Fang Heng politely bent down slowly. Hiss, seeing Fang Heng's gesture, everyone present felt a warmth in their hearts. To be honest, they were truly moved at this moment. Why is my heart beating so fast right now? Why do my eyes feel a little wet? Why is that? Why? Fang Dashen, please don't be like this. We can't accept this. You don't need to be so nice to us. We're just ordinary workers. Yeah, we're just here to get paid, but Fang Dashen, you're different. You're a top figure in the scientific field. Fang Heng's small gesture caused a stir among the audience. They were all deeply moved by Fang Heng's kindness. Fang Heng cleared his throat slightly and continued, well, the sun is still quite strong, so I won't stand on ceremony. Let's get straight to the point. The reason I'm here is to explain some recent events at the factory and the factory's future business direction. Fang Heng spoke entirely without notes, demonstrating his profound language skills. Of course, his confident stage presence was something he cultivated since high school. So even though he's not currently at his high school, he will always cherish his alma mater. Actually, I've seen it too. Your performance is exceptionally good, so we have a rather important task to assign you next. A task? And it's for us? Does this mean our factory is about to start production? And judging from Fang Heng's tone, this task must be quite challenging. Only by assigning us a challenging task can we truly showcase our excellence and strength, pride and arrogance. At this moment, Fang Heng looked around and then loudly announced, next, we will have a core chip that needs to be delivered to your factory for maintenance. But, hiss, before Fang Heng could even finish speaking, the people below were already in an uproar. Some of them even couldn't help but gasp. What? Chips? They're actually giving us the task of making chips. This is fantastic. This is incredibly good news for our factory. Indeed, if I remember correctly, our factory's initial focus was on chip manufacturing, but we were forced to change that due to various reasons. Haha, now we can finally get back to normal. However, Fang Heng's meaning went far beyond that. He continued speaking, of course, this task might be quite urgent, and you all know how important it is, so I think it's necessary to ask for your opinions, whether you're willing to take on this task. These matters are entirely based on your wishes. Having said this, Fang Heng stopped speaking. He calmly looked at everyone present. The employees below were also completely shocked. They looked at each other, bewildered and at a loss for what to do. Finally, someone broke the silence, shouting, let's do it, Master Fang. We'll do this mission. Our factory used to make chips. We have the foundation and the capability. Now that Master Fang is willing to trust us, we will definitely do our best to make it a success. A thunderous roar followed. These words instantly ignited everyone's passion. Chapter 200, Special Materials for Mecha Accidentally Revealed? Of course. Not every factory can handle such a crucial task as chip manufacturing. However, many small factories are quietly contributing their share. In a small factory in Kyushu, numerous assembly lines are producing mechanical armor. However, they are not connected to Fang Heng's work. Despite being a small factory, they have introduced advanced equipment. Most of the assembly lines are automated, requiring only a few quality inspectors and operators to complete production. At this moment, they are seen chatting nearby. What's this batch of materials for? Why the rush? We usually have plenty of production time, so why are we rushing to meet the deadline every day? We're not exactly exhausted, but we're still quite curious. Yeah, who knows? I just heard the supervisor next door say that our factory's progress this time is twice the normal production speed, but it looks like it's just some simple materials. We're not managing any core business, so don't worry, but then again, we haven't dealt with something this simple in a long time. This is practically the lowest value production material. Yeah, we've been promoted to senior employees for several years now, and since then, we haven't handled such low-level orders. But now, the three quality inspectors present couldn't understand why. Actually, they had inexplicably received this notification last month. At first, they didn't think much of it, assuming it would only last a short while, but they didn't expect it to take so long. They shook their heads. A new batch of products had already been successfully produced. Oh, enough talk, let's go check the new products. One of the quality inspectors dusted off his hands, slowly stood up, and looked at the pile of newly produced products outside. Let's go inspect the products and test the equipment. It's been running for quite a while, but when they reached the downstream end of the production line, they were completely stunned. Their pupils dilated instantly, their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. What are these things? I've never seen them before. Damn, what is this thing? It's so heavy. One of the quality inspectors curiously tried to pick up a piece to examine it, but he couldn't lift it with one hand. Hiss, these things are so heavy. They don't look like ordinary things at all, but if they were important, they wouldn't be on such a casual production line, and we didn't see any special blueprints or anything at the source. In that instant, two of the younger quality inspectors turned their gazes to an experienced one. Don't look at me like that, I don't know either. This is the first time this has happened here. Don't even mention here, we've never encountered this thing even on advanced production lines before. This thing is so heavy, it looks very complicated, and look, the sharp-eyed inspector immediately noticed some details. How is this possible? How can this kind of thing be produced? This is too outrageous. Who placed the order? Who would dare place such an order? Do you know which unit placed the order? The more experienced inspector suddenly became serious. Because the moment he saw the product, he instantly realized that the whole process was not simple. If I'm not mistaken, this thing should be a controlled item. How could it be? Before he could finish speaking, another quality inspector asked in surprise. What? A controlled item? How come? The supervisors never mentioned these things to us before. Do you think the supervisor, one of the quality inspectors, suspected that the order was problematic? Perhaps it hadn't been approved. He wasn't sure, so he didn't say it aloud. But these three had been working here for a long time, and they often chatted, so even though he didn't say it aloud, the other two could piece together his unspoken thoughts. No, I think I saw it before. This order went through the normal approval process, and it has normal signatures and approvals from various departments. If that's the case, at this moment, all three of them gasped. They looked at each other, bewildered and at a loss. Finally, he couldn't help but speak up. But this has a normal approval process, don't you find it strange? Generally speaking, only special departments can produce these kinds of regulated items. As for this kind of approved and dispatched task, I've never heard of it before, and it doesn't seem like it's ever happened. Just as they stood there, bewildered, a loud shout suddenly came from afar. What are you three standing there for? Get to work. Are you waiting for lunch? This sentence instantly pulled the three of them back to reality. You three, stop standing there. Get to work. Those who are debugging, get to debugging. Those who are doing self-inspection, get to doing self-inspection. It turned out that their workshop supervisor had arrived. The workshop supervisor, as the name suggests, was in charge of the production line. Seeing the supervisor approaching step by step, the three of them mustered their courage and finally couldn't help but speak up. Supervisor, we wanted to ask you what this thing actually is. Actually, this isn't a regulated product anymore, so why can it be produced here? The three finally couldn't help but ask their questions. However, the supervisor's next sentence instantly dispelled all their doubts. So that's why you were spacing out? You guys have quite the imaginations. It's just a film company saying they want to produce some props. PFFT. Instantly broken down. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.